Welcome to another exciting episode on Potter Paradox. Today, we're exploring a captivating tale called What If Narcissa Malfoy Secretly Swapped Draco and Harry at Birth. Before we begin, if you enjoy our content, please support us by liking this video and subscribing to our channel. It helps more than you know. And now, the story awaits. Chapter 1, The Swap. Narcissa Malfoy wasn't breathing as she clutched the tiny bundle to her chest. Her heartbeat hammered so loudly in her ears that she could barely hear the chaos of St. Mungo's maternity ward around her. Two babies had been born within hours of each other, her son Draco and the Potter boy. "This is madness," she whispered to herself, glancing down at her sleeping newborn. She'd overheard Severus telling Lucius about the prophecy: a child born as the seventh month dies would have the power to vanquish the Dark Lord. Her son's birthday, July 31st, matched the prophecy perfectly. The Potter boy had been born the same day. She knew what would happen if the Dark Lord discovered this. Her beautiful boy would be hunted, marked for death before he could even speak. The Potters were already being hidden away. Their child would be protected. Her son wouldn't be. The decision crystallized in an instant. With trembling hands, she cast a disillusionment charm over herself and slipped into the nursery where the newborns were kept. The Potter baby, Harry, lay sleeping, a tuft of dark hair peeking out from his blanket. "Forgive me," she whispered, carefully setting down her blonde-haired Draco and lifting Harry. For a terrible moment, both babies stirred, and she froze, heart in her throat. Then they settled, and she backed away with Harry Potter in her arms. One quick switching spell on the name tags completed the deception. She kissed her biological son's forehead one last time. "Live well, my dragon," she whispered. "Be safe. Harry. If you're not downstairs in 30 seconds, I'm sending the house elves up with cold water." 10-year-old Harry Malfoy groaned and pulled his silken pillow over his head. His mother's voice carried up the sweeping staircase of Malfoy Manor with impressive authority. "I mean it, young man. Your Hogwarts letter arrived." Harry shot upright, suddenly wide awake. "My letter came." He scrambled out of bed, nearly tripping over his expensive dragon-hide slippers as he yanked on a dressing gown. He didn't bother with the stairs, instead sliding down the polished banister, something that made his father scowl and his mother hide a smile. He skidded into the dining room where his parents sat having breakfast. His father, Lucius, peered disapprovingly over his copy of the Daily Prophet. "A Malfoy does not slide down banisters, Harry," he said coolly. "Sorry, father," Harry replied automatically, though his eyes were already searching the table. "Where is it? Where's my letter?" His mother, Narcissa, watched him with an odd intensity she sometimes had. She handed him a heavy parchment envelope with a purple wax seal. "Here you are, darling." Harry snatched it eagerly, breaking the seal with none of the restraint his father was always trying to instill in him. His eyes devoured the words: Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry Headmaster, Albus Dumbledore, Order of Merlin, First Class, Grand Source, CHF, Warlock, Supreme Mugwump, International Confede, of Wizards. Dear Mr. Malfoy, we are pleased to inform you that you have been accepted at Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Yes. Harry pumped his fist in the air, another gesture that made his father wince. "When can we go to Diagon Alley for my things? Can I get my wand today? What about an owl?" "Father, you promised I could have my own owl." Lucius folded his newspaper precisely. "We will go this weekend, provided you demonstrate that you can behave with the dignity befitting the Malfoy name." Harry nodded eagerly, sliding into his seat at the table while a house elf appeared to serve him breakfast. "Slytherin will be fortunate to have you," his father continued, buttering a piece of toast with surgical precision. "I've already spoken to Professor Snape. He'll ensure you receive the attention appropriate for your station." Harry poked at his eggs with his fork. What if I'm not in Slytherin?" The silence that followed was deafening. Lucius slowly lowered his toast. "Every Malfoy for 7 generations has been in Slytherin House," he said, his voice dangerously quiet. Every black for even longer, save for your mother's blood traitor cousin. You are a Malfoy. You will be in Slytherin. Harry nodded quickly, but something inside him twisted uncomfortably. He'd never told his parents about the strange dreams he had, dreams of red and gold, of a woman with fiery hair singing to him. Dreams that felt more like memories. Of course, father. Narcissa reached across the table and squeezed his hand. Harry will do wonderfully wherever he ends up, she said, earning a sharp look from her husband. Though I'm sure Slytherin is where you belong, darling. Harry smiled gratefully at his mother. She always seemed to understand him better than his father did, though he never quite understood the sadness that sometimes flickered in her eyes when she looked at him. Draco. Draco. Get your broom-riding backside down here this instant. Sirius Black's voice echoed through the modest country cottage where he'd raised his godson for the past decade. From upstairs came the sound of thundering footsteps, followed by a blonde head poking over the banister. Did it come? Draco Potter demanded, his gray eyes wide with excitement. Is it here? Sirius held up the Hogwarts envelope with a dramatic flourish. What do you think I've been hollering about? Come see for yourself, pup. Draco vaulted down the remaining stairs in a single bound, snatching the letter from his godfather's hands. As he tore it open, Sirius ruffled his godson's platinum blonde hair, a feature so unlike either James or Lily Potter that people often questioned their relation. Sirius always brushed it off as one of those magical things, but privately, it had always struck him as odd. I'm going to Hogwarts. Draco crowed, spinning around the kitchen with his letter clutched to his chest. Just like my parents. Sirius felt the familiar pang whenever James and Lily were mentioned. He'd done his best with their son after that terrible Halloween night when Voldemort had murdered them but somehow failed to kill their baby boy. The lightning bolt scar on Draco's forehead was a constant reminder of what they'd lost, and what had been saved. They'd be so proud of you, Sirius said, pulling Draco into a bear hug. The famous Draco Potter, boy who lived, going to take Hogwarts by storm. Draco's face fell slightly at the mention of his fame. Do you think people will stare at me? You know, because of. He gestured vaguely to his forehead. Probably, Sirius admitted, never one to sugarcoat things. But they'll get over it once they realize what a fantastic wizard you are. And what a terror on the Quidditch pitch. Draco brightened at this. He'd been flying since he could walk, showing a natural talent that reminded Sirius painfully of James. When can we go shopping? I want the best wand they've got at Ollivander's. And the fastest broom, even though first years aren't supposed to have them. Sirius laughed. Always reaching for the top shelf, aren't you? We'll go to Diagon Alley tomorrow. And about that broom. He wiggled his eyebrows suggestively. You're getting me one anyway? Draco asked, his eyes lighting up. I didn't hear any rules saying the boy who lived can't have a decent racing broom, Sirius winked. Just don't tell McGonagall I said that. Draco launched himself at his godfather, nearly knocking him over with the force of his hug. You're the best, Sirius. As they celebrated with chocolate frogs and plans for their shopping trip, neither noticed the elegant eagle owl watching through the window, Lucius Malfoy's personal messenger, delivering news back to Malfoy Manor about the Potter heir's Hogwarts acceptance. The weekend found Harry standing in Madame Malkin's robes for all occasions, arms outstretched as magical tape measures flitted around him. His father had gone to Knockturn Alley on business, while his mother browsed the accessories section. Hogwarts, dear? Madame Malkin asked, though she clearly already knew who he was. The Malfoys were hard to miss. Yes, Harry replied, trying to sound bored and important like his father would. Slytherin house robes, naturally. You haven't been sorted yet, she reminded him gently. Every Malfoy is Slytherin, he responded automatically, though his stomach twisted with uncertainty. The bell over the shop door jingled, and Harry turned his head to see a boy with white blonde hair and sharp features walk in. Something about him seemed oddly familiar, though Harry was certain they'd never met. Hogwarts too? The blond boy asked, climbing onto the platform next to Harry's. Yes, Harry answered. I'm Harry. Harry Malfoy. The boy's grey eyes widened slightly. Malfoy? I've heard of your family. I'm Draco Potter. Harry nearly fell off his platform. Potter? You're the boy who lived. Draco sighed dramatically. Yes, but I prefer just Draco, thanks. My godfather Sirius says there's more to life than being famous for something I can't even remember. Harry studied him curiously. He'd heard about the famous Draco Potter, of course, the boy who had somehow defeated the Dark Lord as a baby, leaving nothing but a lightning-shaped scar and a pile of robes. His father spoke of the Potter family with thinly veiled contempt, calling them blood traitors despite their pureblood status. Where is your godfather? Harry asked, looking around. Getting my books at Flourish and Blots. He says I need to meet people without him hovering over my shoulder all the time. Draco rolled his eyes fondly. What house do you think you'll be in? Slytherin, Harry said automatically. All my family have been. You'll probably be in Gryffindor, I suppose. That's what everyone expects, Draco said, frowning slightly. My parents were Gryffindors. But honestly? He lowered his voice, leaning closer to Harry. I've always thought Slytherin sounded cool. Ambitious, clever, getting what you want, what's wrong with that? Harry blinked in surprise. This was not what he'd expected from the famous boy who lived. Don't let my father hear you say that, he whispered back. He thinks all Gryffindors are reckless idiots. Draco laughed, a sharp, clear sound that again struck Harry as strangely familiar. Well, my godfather thinks all Slytherins are sneaky gits, so I guess we're even. Before Harry could respond, Narcissa appeared at the shop entrance. She froze at the sight of Draco, her face draining of color. Mother? Harry called, concerned by her sudden pallor. Narcissa seemed to shake herself. Harry, dear, are you nearly finished? Your father will be waiting. This is Draco Potter, Mother, Harry said, gesturing to his new acquaintance. Narcissa's eyes locked on Draco with an intensity that made both boys shift uncomfortably. Mr. Potter, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. How remarkable to meet you at last. Draco gave a slight bow, surprisingly formal for a boy raised by Sirius Black. Mrs. Malfoy. A pleasure. A commotion at the door drew their attention as Sirius Black entered, arms laden with books. He stopped dead when he saw Narcissa. Sissy, he said coldly, using a nickname that clearly revealed their relation. Cousin, she replied with equal frost. Harry looked between them, confused. You know each other? Unfortunately, they said in unison, then glared at one another. Harry, we're leaving, Narcissa said firmly, her eyes never leaving Sirius. But my robes aren't, now, Harry. The sharp tone brooked no argument. Harry stepped down from the platform, giving Draco an apologetic shrug. See you at Hogwarts, I guess, he said. Looking forward to it, Draco replied with a grin that didn't quite reach his eyes. As Narcissa practically dragged Harry from the shop, he heard Sirius asking Draco, what were you thinking, talking to a Malfoy? Harry glanced back in time to see Draco's defiant expression. He seemed all right to me. Something warm bloomed in Harry's chest at those words, though he couldn't understand why the opinion of a boy he'd just met should matter so much. Do we really need to go through the barrier? Can't we just apparate directly to the platform? Harry asked as his parents led him through King's Cross Station on September 1st, tradition, Harry, his father said curtly. All first years arrive via the barrier. It's part of the experience. Harry thought his father looked uncomfortable among the muggles, his hand twitching occasionally toward his snake-headed cane that concealed his wand. His mother seemed distracted, her eyes scanning the crowd nervously. Looking for someone, Mother? Harry asked. Narcissa startled slightly. No, darling. Just making sure we aren't followed. Harry frowned. His mother had been acting strangely ever since their encounter with Draco Potter in Diagon Alley. She'd been jumpier than usual, checking the wards around the manor obsessively and having whispered arguments with his father when they thought he couldn't hear. They reached the barrier between platforms 9 and 10, and Harry gripped his trolley tightly. Straight through, son, Lucius instructed. Don't hesitate. Harry nodded, took a deep breath, and ran directly at the solid brick wall, only to emerge on platform 9 3/4, where the gleaming Hogwarts Express waited amid clouds of steam and the chaos of hundreds of students and their families. His parents materialized behind him moments later, his mother immediately placing a protective hand on his shoulder. Remember everything we discussed, Lucius said, straightening Harry's already immaculate robes. Associate with the right sort. Crabbe and Goyle's boys will be in your year, their fathers are, colleagues of mine. And the Knot boy is quite bright, despite his father's unfortunate lack of subtlety. Yes, father, Harry said dutifully, though his eyes were already wandering, taking in the incredible scene before him. That's when he spotted him, Draco Potter, standing with Sirius Black and a tired-looking man with graying brown hair. They were laughing about something, Draco gesturing wildly while his godfather doubled over with mirth. They looked happy. Free in a way the Malfoys never were. Harry, are you listening? His father's sharp voice pulled him back. Sorry, father. Yes. Right sort. Crabbe. Goyle. Not. Lucius nodded stiffly. Good. Make us proud, son. His mother pulled him into a tight hug, something almost desperate in her embrace. Be careful, Harry, she whispered. And remember, you can write to us about anything. Anything at all. Harry nodded against her shoulder, suddenly reluctant to leave despite having counted down the days to Hogwarts for years. I'll make you proud, he promised, not entirely sure why tears pricked at his eyes. As he boarded the train and found a compartment, he leaned out the window to wave goodbye. His father nodded formally, his mother blowing kisses with suspiciously bright eyes. Just before the train pulled away, Harry noticed Draco Potter jumping aboard at the last minute, his godfather rushing alongside to hand him a forgotten cage containing a handsome snowy owl. Harry felt a strange pang. His own eagle owl, Artemis, had been sent ahead to the Hogwarts Owlery, his father insisting it wasn't dignified for a Malfoy to be seen struggling with a bird cage. The train rounded a bend, and his parents disappeared from view. Harry settled back in his empty compartment and stared out at the passing countryside, a curious mixture of excitement and apprehension churning in his stomach. Draco Potter could feel the stares as he made his way down the train corridor. Whispers followed in his wake, is that him? Draco Potter. Can you see the scar? He'd been dealing with this his entire life, but somehow, on the Hogwarts Express, it felt more intense. These would be his classmates for 7 years. He didn't want to be just the boy who lived to them. He slid open a compartment door to find a lone red-headed boy inside. Mind if I join you? Everywhere else is full of people gawking at me. The boy looked up, his eyes widening. You're Draco Potter. Draco sighed. And you are? Ron Weasley, the boy said, extending a freckled hand. Sorry about the staring. Must be annoying. You have no idea, Draco said, dropping into the seat opposite Ron. Sirius, that's my godfather, says I should hex anyone who asks to see my scar, but Professor McGonagall would probably give me detention before I even reached the castle. Ron laughed. Probably. My brothers Fred and George would approve, though. They're the school pranksters. How many brothers do you have? Draco asked, grateful for a normal conversation. 5 brothers and a sister. I'm the 6th in our family to go to Hogwarts. Wow, Draco said, genuinely impressed. That must be nice, having a big family. Ron shrugged. It's all right. You get a lot of hand-me-downs, though. He gestured to his slightly worn robes. I'd trade all my new stuff for siblings, Draco said honestly. It's just been me and Sirius. And Remus sometimes, when he's not off on his mysterious trips. Their conversation was interrupted when the compartment door slid open again, revealing a bushy-haired girl already in her Hogwarts robes. Has anyone seen a toad? A boy named Neville's lost one, she said in a bossy voice. Then her eyes landed on Draco and widened. Holy cricket! You're Draco Potter. Draco sighed again. Yes, and you are. Hermione Granger, she said, sitting down without invitation. I know all about you, of course. I got a few extra books for background reading, and you're in modern magical history and the rise and fall of the dark arts and great wizarding events of the 20th century. Am I? Draco asked faintly. Even he hadn't read all of those. Don't you know anything about yourself? She asked, looking surprised. I know plenty, Draco said defensively. Just not the rubbish they print in books. Most of them got it wrong anyway, according to Sirius. Hermione looked affronted at the suggestion that books could contain inaccurate information, but before she could respond, the door slid open yet again. Harry Malfoy stood there, flanked by two large, thuggish-looking boys. There you are, Harry said, looking directly at Draco. I've been looking all over the train for you. Ron stiffened. What do you want, Malfoy? Harry's gaze flicked to Ron, his expression cooling. Weasley, I presume. Red hair, freckles, and hand-me-down robes. My father told me all about your family. Ron's ears turned pink, but Harry had already turned his attention back to Draco. I thought we might continue our conversation from Madame Malkin's, Harry said. Unless you prefer, certain company. He glanced dismissively at Ron and Hermione. Draco felt a flash of irritation. This certain company happens to be my friends. Friends? Harry looked genuinely confused. You've only just met them. And I've only just met you, Draco pointed out. But unlike you, they haven't insulted anyone yet. Harry flinched as if struck. For a brief moment, something like hurt flashed in his green eyes. Fine. Have it your way, Potter. He turned to leave, then paused. By the way, you've got dirt on your nose, Weasley. Ron rubbed furiously at his nose as Harry and his cronies disappeared down the corridor. What an awful boy, Hermione said, frowning. That's a Malfoy for you, Ron muttered. Dad says the whole family's bad news. His father was a big supporter of you-know-who until he claimed he'd been under the Imperius curse after you defeated him. Draco nodded, but for some reason, he couldn't reconcile the genuinely hurt look he'd seen in Harry's eyes with the description of an evil family. The boy he'd met in Madame Malkin's had seemed almost normal. Maybe he's just repeating what his parents taught him, Draco found himself saying. Sirius says my dad was a right prat when he first started Hogwarts, before my mum straightened him out. Ron looked unconvinced, but Hermione nodded thoughtfully. People are products of their environments, she said sagely. But they can change. As the train journey continued, Draco found himself repeatedly glancing out into the corridor, half expecting Harry to return. He never did. Harry sat stiffly in a compartment with Crabbe and Goyle, feeling miserable. His first attempt at making a friend his own age, someone who didn't know him as Lucius Malfoy's son, had failed spectacularly. He hadn't meant to insult the Weasley boy. Well, he had, but only because that's what his father would have expected. The words had tumbled out automatically, in his father's cold drawl rather than his own voice. And the look of disappointment on Draco Potter's face had stung more than he'd expected. Want some more chocolate frogs, Malfoy? Crabbe grunted, holding out a squashed package. No, Harry replied shortly. Crabbe and Goyle exchanged glances. They were already treating him with the deference his father commanded, and Harry found he hated it. The train eventually slowed to a stop, and Harry joined the crowd of first-years following a massive bearded man named Hagrid to a fleet of small boats. He deliberately chose a boat away from Draco, ending up with a quiet boy named Theodore Knott and a girl with a pug-like face who introduced herself as Pansy Parkinson and immediately started attempting to flatter him. "The Malfoys are the most respected wizarding family in Britain," she simpered. "My father says your father has the Minister for Magic in his pocket." Harry ignored her, his breath catching as Hogwarts came into view, a magnificent castle perched on a mountain, its windows sparkling in the night sky. For a moment, he forgot his misery, captivated by the sight of his new home. They disembarked at an underground harbor, climbing a passageway up to the castle's massive oak front doors. A stern-looking witch introduced herself as Professor McGonagall and led them into a small chamber off the entrance hall. "Welcome to Hogwarts," she said. "The start of term banquet will begin shortly, but first, you will be sorted into your houses." Harry barely listened to her explanation of the 4 houses, his eyes scanning the crowd until they landed on Draco's distinctive platinum hair. The other boy was chatting animatedly with Weasley and the bushy-haired girl, looking completely at ease. A strange emotion twisted in Harry's gut. Jealousy, perhaps. But that was absurd. Malfoys didn't get jealous of blood traitors and what looked like a Muggleborn. McGonagall returned to lead them into the Great Hall, a spectacular space with thousands of floating candles and a ceiling bewitched to look like the night sky. The first-years huddled together as a ragged old hat was placed on a stool. To Harry's surprise, the hat began to sing, describing the qualities of each house. When it mentioned Gryffindor's bravery, he glanced at Draco again and found the other boy watching him. They both looked away quickly. The sorting began. Hannah Abbott went to Hufflepuff. Then Susan Bones. When Granger, Hermione, was called, the bushy-haired girl from the train nearly ran to the stool, jamming the hat on her head. After a moment's deliberation, it shouted, "Gryffindor." More names were called. Neville Longbottom, a round-faced boy who kept losing his toad, became a Gryffindor. Then, finally, Malfoy, Harry. Whispers erupted across the hall as Harry walked forward, trying to project the confidence his father always demanded. Some students were clearly reacting to his family name. The Malfoys were notorious throughout Wizarding Britain. He sat on the stool, and the hat dropped over his eyes. Said a small voice in his ear. "Interesting. Very interesting. A sharp mind, I see. Plenty of courage, too. There's talent, oh yes, and a thirst to prove yourself. But where to put you?" "Slytherin," Harry thought desperately. "I have to be in Slytherin." "Slytherin, said the hat. "Are you sure? You could be great, you know. It's all here in your head. And Slytherin will help you on the way to greatness, no doubt about that. But, there's something else here. Something that doesn't quite fit." "Please," Harry thought. "My father will never forgive me if I'm not in Slytherin." "Your father," the hat seemed to chuckle. "I wonder. No, better be Slytherin." The last word was shouted to the hall. Harry removed the hat with shaking hands and walked to the Slytherin table, where he was greeted with polite applause. He didn't miss the knowing smirks exchanged by some of the older students. Of course the Malfoy heir would be Slytherin. It was never in doubt. Except it had been, Harry realized with a chill. The hat had hesitated. Names continued to be called. Draco's friends from the train, Parkinson, Pansy, became a Slytherin, sitting across from Harry with a simper. Then, finally, Potter, Draco. The hall fell silent, then erupted in excited whispers. Harry watched as Draco approached the stool, his face a careful mask of confidence though his hands trembled slightly. The hat touched his head and seemed to pause for a long time. Harry found himself holding his breath, though he couldn't have explained why. Finally, the hat shouted, "Gryffindor." The Gryffindor table exploded with cheers, the Weasley twins chanting, "We got Potter. We got Potter." Draco grinned and hurried to join them, accepting handshakes and backslaps from his new housemates. For a moment, his eyes met Harry's across the hall. Neither boy looked away this time. Something unspoken passed between them, some strange recognition neither could articulate. The feast began, but Harry found he had little appetite. He pushed his food around his plate, responding automatically to attempts at conversation from his new housemates. His mind kept returning to the Sorting Hat's words, something that doesn't quite fit. What didn't fit? He was a Malfoy. He belonged in Slytherin. Didn't he? Draco's first week at Hogwarts was a whirlwind of new experiences. He quickly became friends with his dorm mates, Ron Weasley, Neville Longbottom, Seamus Finnegan, and Dean Thomas. Hermione Granger, despite her bossy nature, had attached herself to their group, her encyclopedic knowledge already proving useful for homework. The whispers and pointing whenever Draco walked by grew tiresome, but he was used to it. What he wasn't used to was the odd sensation he got whenever he crossed paths with Harry Malfoy. They had potions together on Friday, a tense affair in the dungeons with Professor Snape, who seemed to have an immediate dislike for Draco that bordered on loathing. Ah, yes, Snape had said during roll call, Draco Potter. Our new celebrity. The Slytherins had sniggered, but Draco had caught Harry watching him with an inscrutable expression. After a particularly disastrous potions lesson where Neville had somehow melted his cauldron and covered himself in boils, Draco found himself walking back to the Great Hall alone, having told Ron to go ahead while he helped Neville to the hospital wing. Potter. Draco turned to find Harry Malfoy leaning against a wall, arms crossed. What do you want, Malfoy? Draco asked warily. Harry pushed off the wall, approaching slowly. I wanted to apologize. For the train. I shouldn't have insulted Weasley. Draco blinked in surprise. Did hell freeze over? A Malfoy apologizing? Harry's eyes flashed with annoyance. I'm trying to be nice here. Sorry, Draco said, genuinely. That was rude. Apology accepted. And I'm sorry I was so quick to dismiss you. Harry nodded stiffly, seemingly unsure how to proceed now that the apology was out of the way. Was that all? Draco prompted when the silence stretched too long. No, Harry said, looking uncomfortable. I wanted to ask, did the Sorting Hat say anything strange to you? Before it put you in Gryffindor? Draco hesitated. The Hat had indeed said something odd. It had whispered that he had the cunning and ambition of a true Slytherin, and that blood will tell. But it had ultimately decided on Gryffindor because of his choices and courage. It did say some weird stuff, Draco admitted. Why? Just curious, Harry said quickly. It told me I had qualities that didn't fit. Whatever that means. Maybe it's going senile, Draco suggested with a half-smile. It is 1,000 years old. Harry laughed, a genuine laugh that transformed his usually guarded face. Maybe so. Another awkward silence fell between them. Well, I should get to lunch, Draco finally said. Right, Harry nodded. See you around, Potter. See you around, Malfoy. As Draco walked away, he couldn't shake the feeling that something significant had just happened, though he couldn't have explained what. Halloween arrived with a feast and excitement, but ended in chaos when Professor Quirrell burst into the Great Hall screaming about a troll in the dungeons. As prefects led students back to their common rooms, Harry overheard Ron Weasley mention that Hermione Granger was crying in the girls' bathroom and didn't know about the troll. To his own surprise, Harry slipped away from the Slytherins and found himself following Draco and Ron as they raced to warn Hermione. He told himself he was just curious, what would the famous boy who lived do in a crisis? But when they found the troll entering the very bathroom where Hermione was hiding, Harry didn't hesitate. As Draco and Ron tried to distract the creature, Harry levitated its massive club using a charm they'd only just learned in class. The club dropped onto the troll's head with a sickening crack, knocking it unconscious. When teachers arrived moments later, Hermione shocked everyone by taking the blame. "I went looking for the troll," she lied. "I've read about them and thought I could handle it. If Draco, Ron, and Harry hadn't found me, I'd be dead." Professor McGonagall looked at the four of them, a Gryffindor trio and a Slytherin, with astonishment. "5 points will be taken from Gryffindor for your serious lack of judgment, Miss Granger," she said. "Then, more surprisingly, 5 points will be awarded to each of you for sheer dumb luck." As they left the bathroom, Harry found himself surrounded by the 3 Gryffindors. "Why did you help us?" Draco asked bluntly. Harry shifted uncomfortably. "I don't know. It seemed like the right thing to do." "Thank you," Hermione said solemnly. "That was incredibly brave." "Not very Slytherin of you," Ron added, looking at Harry with newfound respect. Harry didn't know how to respond to that. It hadn't been very Slytherin of him, had it? His housemates would mock him mercilessly if they knew he'd helped Gryffindors, especially the boy who lived and his friends. Yet somehow, he couldn't bring himself to regret it. "Don't mention it," he said finally. "Seriously. Don't mention it. To anyone." Draco grinned. "Your secret's safe with us, Malfoy." From that night forward, a strange sort of friendship formed between them. They couldn't be seen together publicly, the rivalry between Gryffindor and Slytherin was too intense, and Harry had his family's reputation to consider. But they exchanged notes in class, met occasionally in the library under the pretense of studying, and developed a system of nods that conveyed simple messages when they passed in the halls. Harry found himself living a double life, the perfect Slytherin prince in public, friends with a trio of Gryffindors in private. It was exhausting but oddly fulfilling. For the first time in his life, he felt like he had real friends who liked him for himself, not his family name or wealth. As Christmas approached, both Draco and Harry signed up to stay at Hogwarts over the holiday. Draco because Sirius was on an Order of the Phoenix mission with Remus, Harry because his parents had announced a last-minute trip to France. With most students gone home, they had more freedom to spend time together openly. They spent hours exploring the castle, playing wizard chess. Ron had stayed too, and was teaching them both, and investigating a curious discovery Draco had made, a magnificent mirror hidden in an unused classroom. "It shows what I want most," Draco explained as he led Harry to see it. "I see myself with my parents, my real parents, not just pictures of them. They're standing next to me, smiling. My mum has red hair and green eyes, and my dad looks just like the photos Sirius has, except..." "Except what?" Harry prompted when Draco trailed off. Draco hesitated. "Except his eyes are grey like mine, not hazel like in the photos. Probably just the mirror getting details wrong." Harry stepped in front of the mirror, curious what he would see. His breath caught in his throat. He saw himself, but not alone. A man with messy black hair and glasses stood behind him, one hand on his shoulder. Beside them stood a beautiful woman with flowing red hair and startlingly green eyes, the woman from his dreams. "What do you see?" Draco asked. Harry couldn't speak. The man and woman in the mirror were looking at him with such love, such pride. Who were they? Why did they seem so familiar? "Harry?" Draco's voice seemed to come from far away. I see my family," Harry managed, not wanting to describe the actual vision. "Mother, father, and me." Draco nodded, though he looked slightly skeptical. "The mirror shows what we want most," he repeated. "Professor Dumbledore told me it's called the Mirror of Erist. I show not your face but your heart's desire." Harry tore his gaze from the mirror, disturbed by the implications. Why would his heart's desire show him strangers instead of his own parents? "We shouldn't come back here," he said abruptly. "Dumbledore said the mirror's dangerous, right? People waste away staring at it." Draco nodded slowly. "Right. It's probably best we stay away." They left the classroom, but the image stayed with Harry, haunting his dreams that night, the black-haired man and the red-haired woman, their faces alight with love as they gazed at him. Not at Draco Potter, the boy who lived. At him, Harry Malfoy. As winter melted into spring, both boys found themselves caught up in a mystery surrounding the third-floor corridor and the Philosopher's Stone. Hermione had made the connection after they'd questioned Hagrid about a dragon egg he was attempting to hatch, which eventually had to be smuggled off to Romania, courtesy of Ron's brother Charlie. Their investigations led them to suspect that someone, probably Professor Snape, was trying to steal the stone for Voldemort. It can't be Snape, Harry argued during one of their secret meetings in an empty classroom. He's head of Slytherin. My father trusts him. Which is exactly why it's probably him, Ron countered. No offense, Malfoy, but your father was a Death Eater. Alleged Death Eater, Harry corrected automatically, though without much conviction. He'd begun to question many things his father had taught him. Whoever it is, they'll make their move soon, Draco said. The stone isn't safe, and Dumbledore's been called away to the Ministry tonight. We have to stop them. Harry stared at him. We're first years. What are we supposed to do against a fully trained wizard? We've got to try, Draco insisted. If Voldemort gets that stone, he comes back to power. And I don't know about you, but I'd rather not deal with the psychopath who killed my parents and tried to kill me. Harry felt a chill at Draco's words. If Voldemort returned, his father would almost certainly return to his service. The Dark Lord would control his family's fate. I'm in, he said quietly. What's the plan? That night, the five of them, Draco, Ron, Hermione, Neville, who had tried to stop them and ended up petrified by Hermione, and Harry, made their way to the Forbidden Corridor. They got past Fluffy with music, navigated the Devil's Snare, caught the Flying Key, won Ron's brilliant chess game, though it left him injured, solved Snape's potion riddle, and finally reached the last chamber. But it wasn't Snape waiting for them. It was Professor Quirrell, unwrapping his turban to reveal a horrifying sight, a face growing out of the back of his head. Voldemort's face. Potter, the high, cold voice hissed. We meet again. Draco stood frozen, his face pale but determined. And what's this? Voldemort's red eyes shifted to Harry. A Malfoy? Your father was one of my most loyal servants, boy. Yet you stand with Potter? Harry began, but found he couldn't continue. Terror gripped him. Get the stone from Potter's pocket, Voldemort commanded Quirrell. Harry glanced at Draco in confusion. Draco looked equally bewildered, he didn't have the stone. But as Quirrell lunged for Draco, Harry felt a weight in his own pocket. Somehow, impossibly, the Philosopher's Stone had appeared there. Draco, he shouted, pulling the stone out. I have it. Everything happened in a blur after that. Quirrell abandoned Draco and charged at Harry instead. Acting on instinct, Harry threw the stone to Draco and intercepted Quirrell's charge, grabbing the professor's face with his bare hands. To everyone's shock, Quirrell began to scream. His skin blistered and cracked wherever Harry touched him. The boy burns me, he shrieked. Then kill him. Voldemort commanded. As Quirrell raised his wand, Draco tackled him from behind. The moment Draco's hands touched Quirrell's skin, the same burning effect occurred. The professor howled in agony, crumbling to ash between them. A dark shadow rose from the remains, Voldemort's spirit, shrieking with rage. It passed through both boys, knocking them unconscious as it fled the chamber. Harry woke in the hospital wing, squinting against bright sunlight. Professor Dumbledore sat beside his bed, his half-moon spectacles glinting. Good afternoon, Harry, said the headmaster. Harry struggled to sit up. Sir. The stone. Quirrell. Draco. Calm yourself, dear boy. You are a little behind the times. Quirrell does not have the stone. And Mr. Potter is quite well, see for yourself. He gestured to the next bed, where Draco lay sleeping peacefully. What happened, sir? When you both touched Professor Quirrell, he could not bear it. A remarkable protection, one that Lord Voldemort did not anticipate. Why couldn't he touch us? Harry asked. Dumbledore's eyes twinkled mysteriously. Love, Harry. The deepest, most powerful kind. Lily Potter died to save her son, and that sacrifice left a mark. Not a scar like Draco's, but a protection in the blood. But sir, Harry frowned, I'm not Lily Potter's son. Dumbledore regarded him for a long moment. Aren't you? He said softly. Before Harry could ask what he meant, the headmaster stood. I believe your friends are waiting most anxiously to see you. I'll leave you to them. He left Harry staring after him in confusion. A moment later, Hermione and Ron burst in, followed more sedately by Madame Pomfrey, who pursed her lips disapprovingly but allowed them a short visit. As his friends recounted the school's reaction to their adventure, Harry kept glancing at Draco's sleeping form, Dumbledore's words echoing in his mind, aren't you? What did that mean? And why had Quirrell burned at his touch just as he had at Draco's? It made no sense unless... A cold realization began to form in the pit of Harry's stomach. The strange dreams of the red-haired woman. His green eyes, so unlike either of his parents. The way he never quite fit into the Malfoy mold. Could it be? No, it was impossible. He was Harry Malfoy. His parents were Lucius and Narcissa Malfoy. Weren't they? The end-of-year feast was a joyous occasion for most students, especially when Dumbledore awarded last-minute points to Gryffindor for the stone incident, allowing them to snatch the house cup from Slytherin. Harry applauded politely with the rest of his house, though many shot him dark looks for it. He didn't care. His mind was too full of questions, ones he intended to ask his mother as soon as he saw her. On the Hogwarts Express ride home, he found himself sharing a compartment with Draco, Ron, and Hermione. Their unlikely friendship had become public knowledge after the stone incident, causing a minor scandal in Slytherin House. Harry found he didn't mind the cold shoulders from his housemates as much as he'd expected. You'll write this summer, won't you? Hermione asked them all. Of course, Draco grinned. I'll need help with that Transfiguration essay McGonagall assigned. Ron groaned. Don't remind me. 2 feet of parchment on switching spells. Harry smiled but said nothing. He was watching the countryside roll by, dreading and anticipating the moment he would see his parents on the platform. Harry. Draco's voice pulled him back. You okay? Fine, he said automatically. Then, reconsidering, actually, no. I need to ask you something, Draco. Something important. Ron and Hermione exchanged glances. We'll go find the trolley, Hermione said tactfully, pulling Ron out of the compartment. Once they were alone, Harry turned to Draco. When you look in a mirror, who do you see? Draco frowned. What kind of question is that? Just, humor me. When you look at your reflection, who looks back? Me, Draco said slowly. Blonde hair, gray eyes, pointy face. Why? Harry hesitated. Don't you think it's weird? Your parents both had different coloring. Your dad had black hair and hazel eyes. Your mom had red hair and green eyes. Where did you get blonde hair and gray eyes? Draco stiffened. What are you suggesting? I don't know, Harry admitted. But something's not right. Dumbledore said something strange to me in the hospital wing. And there's more, I've had these dreams my whole life, of a woman with red hair singing to me. I see her in the mirror of Eriste too, along with a man with glasses and black hair. Draco's face had gone very pale. Potter and his wife, he whispered. Yes, Harry nodded. And when we both touched Quirrell, he burned. Dumbledore said it was because of Lily Potter's sacrifice, her protection in the blood. But that would mean... Draco trailed off, his eyes wide. I don't know what it means, Harry said, frustration evident in his voice. But I'm going to find out. They fell into silence, both lost in troubling thoughts as the train sped toward London. When they reached platform 9 3/4, Harry spotted his parents immediately. His father stood tall and imposing, his mother beautiful but anxious-looking. Not far from them stood Sirius Black, scanning the crowd for his godson. "I'll write to you," Harry told Draco as they gathered their trunks. "Whatever I find out." Draco nodded, his expression serious. "Me too." They parted ways, each heading toward the adults waiting for them, adults who might not be what they claimed to be. As Harry approached his parents, he steeled himself for the conversation to come. Whatever the truth was, he would face it head-on. After all, he'd helped defeat Voldemort. Twice. How hard could one conversation be? He had no idea that his questions would shake the very foundations of both their lives, and potentially the entire wizarding world. Chapter 2, Mirrors and Revelations. Harry Malfoy stood frozen on platform 9 3/4, watching his mother's face carefully as she rushed toward him. Her eyes, nothing like his own, scanned him with a desperate intensity that suddenly made perfect sense. "Harry, darling." Narcissa embraced him tightly, her fingers trembling slightly against his back. "We've missed you terribly." His father approached more sedately, nodding with cold dignity. "I trust your first year was educational." Harry couldn't help glancing sideways where Sirius Black was crushing Draco in a bear hug, ruffling the boy's platinum blonde hair that matched Narcissa's exactly. "Very educational, father," Harry replied, the word feeling strange in his mouth. "I learned quite a lot about heritage." Narcissa's face paled. She gripped his shoulder, steering him toward the barrier. "Come along, dear. Lots to discuss at home." As they moved through the crowd, Harry locked eyes with Draco one last time. The other boy nodded slightly, a promise to keep investigating. The moment they apparat into Malfoy Manor, Harry broke free from his mother's grasp. "I need to ask you something," he said, his heart hammering. "And I need the truth." Lucius raised an eyebrow. "What's this about? Have those Gryffindor friends of yours been filling your head with nonsense?" "I know who the woman in my dreams is," Harry said directly to Narcissa, ignoring his father. "The one with red hair and green eyes who sings to me. She's Lily Potter, isn't she?" Narcissa swayed slightly, her hand flying to her throat. "Harry, and I know why Quirrell burned when both Draco and I touched him. It's because of her protection. Her blood protection." Harry took a deep breath. "I'm not your son, am I? I'm Harry Potter. And Draco is your real son." The silence that followed felt like the air before a thunderstorm. Lucius looked between Harry and Narcissa, confusion turning to dawning comprehension. "Narcissa," he said in a dangerously soft voice. "What is the boy talking about?" Narcissa's eyes never left Harry's face. "How did you figure it out?" "Narcissa." Lucius's voice cracked like a whip. She ignored him, reaching for Harry's hands. "Tell me how you know." Harry swallowed hard. Little things that never made sense. My eyes. The dreams. How I never quite fit. Then at Hogwarts, Dumbledore said something strange after Quirrell couldn't touch me. And in the mirror of Eriste, I saw the Potters. As my parents. Narcissa closed her eyes, tears spilling down her cheeks. I knew this day would come. I just thought I'd have more time. Is it true? Harry demanded, his voice breaking slightly. Am I Harry Potter? Is Draco your real son? She nodded, her shoulders sagging. Yes. Lucius made a strangled noise. What have you done? He hissed. Narcissa finally turned to her husband. What I had to do to protect our child. The prophecy, Lucius, the one about the Dark Lord and a child born as the 7th month dies. Our Draco was born on July 31st. The same day as the Potter boy. So you swapped them? Lucius looked thunderstruck. Without telling me? Without consulting me? Would you have agreed? She challenged. Would you have put our son before your precious Dark Lord? Harry backed away from them both, his mind reeling. So I've been living a lie my entire life. Everything, my name, my family, it's all been a lie. Not a lie, Narcissa said desperately, reaching for him. I love you, Harry. I've loved you since the moment I took you in my arms. You've been my son in every way that matters. Harry flinched away from her touch. Does Draco know? Does Sirius Black know? No one knows except me, Narcissa whispered. And now you. And. She cast a nervous glance at her husband. Lucius stood rigidly, his hand white-knuckled on his walking stick. The Potter boy, he said slowly. The boy who lived. The child who vanquished the Dark Lord, is our son. Harry could almost see the calculations running behind Lucius's eyes, the political implications, the power dynamics, the potential advantage. This changes everything, Lucius murmured. This changes nothing, Narcissa said sharply. Harry is still our son. And Draco is still with his godfather, where he's been safe and loved. Safe and loved? Lucius scoffed. Raised by that blood traitor Black. Taught to despise everything our family stands for. Taught to survive. Narcissa shouted. Which is more than you would have done for him if the Dark Lord had marked him for death. Harry backed toward the grand staircase, overwhelmed by their argument. I need time to think, he said, though neither seemed to hear him. He turned and ran up to his bedroom. No, not his bedroom. The bedroom of a boy who never existed. Across London, Draco pushed his dinner around his plate, watching Sirius devour a large helping of shepherd's pie. Something wrong with the food, pup? Sirius asked, glancing up. You've barely touched it. Draco set down his fork. Sirius, can I ask you something weird? Those are my favorite kinds of questions, his godfather grinned. Do I look like my parents? Sirius's fork froze halfway to his mouth. What kind of question is that? Just wondering, Draco shrugged, trying to sound casual. Everyone says I have my mum's eyes, but I've seen the photos, and her eyes were green, not gray. And Dad had black hair, not blonde. Sirius set down his fork. Genetics are funny things, kid. Sometimes traits skip generations. Your grandmother on your father's side had that exact shade of blonde, and your grandfather Evans had gray eyes. It was a perfectly reasonable explanation. Too reasonable, almost, like something rehearsed. Did you know the Malfoys have a son my age? Draco asked, changing tactics. Sirius's eyes narrowed slightly. Harry Malfoy. Yes, I'm aware. He has green eyes. Exactly like the ones in pictures of my mum. Lots of people have green eyes, Draco. And black hair that sticks up everywhere, like in pictures of my dad. Sirius pushed his plate away, suddenly serious. What exactly are you suggesting? Draco took a deep breath. I think something weird happened when we were born. Harry and I, we've been having these moments. Things that don't make sense. When we both touched Quirrell, he burned. Dumbledore said it was because of my mother's protection, but it happened to both of us. Dumbledore said that? Sirius leaned forward, alert now. Draco nodded. And there's more. I've always felt. I don't know, drawn to Slytherin stuff. The Sorting Hat almost put me there, did you know that? It said something about, blood will tell. And Harry, he doesn't fit with the Malfoys. He's too good. Sirius ran a hand through his hair, looking troubled. Have you discussed this theory with anyone else? Just Harry. He's going to ask his mother, Narcissa. Draco hesitated. She's your cousin, right? What's she like? Really like, not just what people say. Sirius was quiet for a long moment. Narcissa was always complicated. Not as fanatical as Bellatrix, not as rebellious as Andromeda. She loved her family fiercely. Would do anything to protect them. He studied Draco's face carefully. What exactly do you think happened, Draco? I think. Draco swallowed hard. I think I might be a Malfoy by birth. And Harry might be, me. The real Draco Potter. The silence stretched between them, heavy with implications. That's one hell of a theory, pup, Sirius finally said. What makes you so sure? I'm not sure. That's why I'm asking you. Sirius pushed back from the table, his face troubled. I need to contact Dumbledore. And Remus. If what you're suggesting is true. He shook his head. Just, don't do anything rash until we've figured this out, all right? Draco nodded, though his mind was already racing with plans to contact Harry. Does this mean you think I might be right? It means, Sirius said carefully, that stranger things have happened in our world. And that if anyone would be clever and desperate enough to pull off something like this, it would be Narcissa Black Malfoy. Harry stared at the blank parchment before him, quill poised. How exactly did you write to someone to tell them you might be them and they might be you? After several false starts, he settled for directness. Draco, she confirmed it. I asked my mother, Narcissa, outright, and she admitted everything. She swapped us as babies because she was afraid the prophecy meant Voldemort would target her son. You're actually Draco Malfoy by birth. I'm Harry Potter. My father, Lucius, didn't know until I confronted them today. He's processing it. I'm not sure what happens next. I don't know who I am anymore. Have you talked to Sirius Black? Harry he sent the letter with his eagle owl Artemis, then collapsed onto his bed, emotionally drained. His entire identity had been shattered in a single conversation. He was Harry Potter, the boy who lived, raised as a Malfoy. His parents weren't his parents. The family legacy he'd been groomed to uphold wasn't his legacy at all. And somewhere out there was a boy who should have grown up in this mansion, learning pure-blood etiquette and politics, instead of being raised by his godfather with a target on his back. A soft knock on his door pulled him from his thoughts. Narcissa, he couldn't think of her as mother right now, entered without waiting for a response. I thought you might have questions, she said, sitting on the edge of his bed. Harry sat up, keeping his distance. Like what? Why you lied to me my entire life? Why you let me believe I was someone I'm not? You are who you've always been, she said softly. A name doesn't change that. But it changes everything else. Harry ran a hand through his perpetually messy hair, James Potter's hair, he now realized. My real parents died thinking their son was with them. They died protecting me, except it wasn't me, it was your son. I never meant for them to die, Narcissa whispered. I just wanted to protect Draco from the prophecy. I thought they would be safer, they were in hiding, protected by the Fidelius charm. No one was supposed to find them. But Voldemort did. And he killed them, thinking he was killing Draco Potter's parents. My parents. Narcissa flinched. Yes. Harry stared at her, this woman who had raised him, tucked him in at night, held him when he was sick or scared. She had shown him real love, even knowing he wasn't her flesh and blood. Did you ever plan to tell me? He asked. I hoped I wouldn't have to, she admitted. I thought perhaps, after the Dark Lord was truly gone, I might find a way to undo it. To switch you back. But then the Potter died, and there was no going back. And now? What happens now that I know? That Lucius knows? Narcissa sighed. That depends partly on you, Harry. And on Draco. And on what Lucius decides to do with this information. He seemed excited by the possibilities, Harry said bitterly. Like having the boy who lived as his biological son is some kind of political coup. Your father, Lucius, always thinks in terms of advantage. It's how he survived the First War. Harry laughed without humor. He's not my father. And you're not my mother. The words hit Narcissa like physical blows, but she straightened her shoulders. I understand you feel betrayed. But whatever you decide to call me, I have loved you as my son from the moment I took you in my arms. That has never been a lie. Harry felt tears prickling behind his eyes and blinked them back furiously. I need time, he said, his voice rough. I've written to Draco. He deserves to know the truth too. Narcissa nodded, rising gracefully. Of course. We'll talk again when you're ready. She paused at the door. For what it's worth, Harry. I think Lily and James Potter would be very proud of the young man you've become. After she left, Harry lay back on his bed, staring at the ceiling enchanted to show constellations, a feature he'd begged for on his 8th birthday. Even his childhood memories felt tainted now, colored by the knowledge that he'd been living someone else's life. But whose life should he be living now? Harry Potter's or Harry Malfoy's? Or some new path entirely? Draco's reply arrived the next morning. Harry, I talked to Sirius. He didn't confirm anything, but he didn't deny it either. He's contacted Dumbledore and Remus Lupin, his friend who's like an uncle to me. They're coming over tonight to discuss it. This is insane. If it's true, I'm a Malfoy. Everything I thought I knew about myself is wrong. And you're the actual boy who lived. You're the one Voldemort tried to kill. What do we do now? Do we just switch lives? Go back to who we were supposed to be? I don't know if I can be a Malfoy. And would you want to leave everything you know to be Harry Potter? This is messing with my head. Right back after your parents go to sleep. I'll be up late. Sirius always says I get my night owl tendencies from my mother. Guess we know which mother he meant now. Draco, or should I start calling myself Draco Malfoy? Harry read the letter twice, a bizarre feeling washing over him. He was corresponding with the boy who should have had his life, who should have grown up in this house, who should have been taught the Malfoy family history and expectations. Instead, Draco had been raised by Sirius Black, carrying the burden of being the boy who lived. Except he wasn't. Harry was. The weight of this realization hit him anew. If he was truly Harry Potter, then he was the one Voldemort had tried to kill. He was the one who had somehow reflected the killing curse. He was the one the prophecy had referred to. And yet, Voldemort had been defeated when he attacked Draco. The protection had worked for both of them. None of it made sense. Harry tucked the letter into his robes as he heard footsteps approaching. Lucius appeared in the doorway, looking more composed than he had the previous day. We need to talk, he said without preamble. About your future. Harry tensed. My future? Yes. Lucius entered, closing the door behind him. This situation requires careful handling. The implications are significant. The implications, Harry repeated flatly. You mean the political advantage of having the boy who lived as your biological son? Lucius's mouth tightened. Don't be naive, Harry. Of course there are political considerations. But there are also practical matters to address. Your safety, for one. When the Dark Lord's followers learn of this, so you believe he'll return? Harry interrupted. Voldemort? Lucius flinched at the name. It would be foolish to assume otherwise, given recent events. And where will your loyalties lie when he does? Harry challenged. With your son, your real son, or with the man who would kill him because of a prophecy? That's quite enough, Lucius snapped. Whatever you may think of me, I protect my family. Which, despite recent revelations, includes you. Harry wasn't sure he believed that, but he nodded cautiously. What do you propose? For now, nothing changes publicly. You remain Harry Malfoy. The Potter boy remains with Black. We need time to consider our options without causing a wizarding uproar. And privately? Lucius's expression softened marginally. That is largely up to you, and to my biological son. You've been corresponding, I presume? Harry nodded. I thought as much. I won't interfere with that. You both deserve answers. It was more understanding than Harry had expected. Thank you, he said stiffly. Lucius inclined his head. I may not be your father by blood, Harry, but I have raised you. Whatever happens next, remember that. As he turned to leave, Harry called after him, did you know about the prophecy and Draco's birthday matching? Lucius paused. No. Your mother kept that from me. Had I known. He trailed off. You'd have handed your own son to Voldemort? Harry pressed. Lucius's shoulders stiffened. I don't know, he admitted, so quietly Harry almost missed it. Without another word, he left, closing the door firmly behind him. Harry stared after him, surprised by the honesty of that answer. Lucius Malfoy, the man he'd called father for 11 years, wasn't known for vulnerability or uncertainty. That small admission felt more genuine than anything he'd said before. With a sigh, Harry pulled out fresh parchment to reply to Draco. They had a lot to figure out. The summer passed in a flurry of letters between Harry and Draco, each struggling to come to terms with their new reality. Dumbledore had confirmed the swap to Sirius, having suspected it for years but lacking proof. The protection Lily Potter had given her son through her sacrifice had transferred to both boys due to a magical quirk. Harry carried it in his blood, while Draco carried it in his name and in the magical recognition of him as Harry Potter's heir. It's unprecedented, Dumbledore had explained to Draco. Your mother's love created a protection that flows through both of you. In magical terms, you were recognized as her son because that's what the world believed. Harry carries her blood, but you carry her magical designation. It's why you both burned Quirrell with your touch. Both boys decided to keep their birth identities secret from their classmates for the time being. It was too complicated, too personal, and too potentially dangerous to reveal publicly. With Voldemort's return looming, neither wanted to create confusion about which of them the prophecy truly referred to. By the time September 1st arrived, they'd agreed to meet on the Hogwarts Express to talk face-to-face for the first time since learning the truth. Harry arrived early, securing an empty compartment at the back of the train. He'd barely settled in when the door slid open and Draco entered, without Ron and Hermione for once. They stared at each other, identical in height, both thin, but one with platinum blonde hair and gray eyes, the other with unruly black hair and bright green eyes. Mirror images of their biological fathers, with bits of their mothers mixed in. This is weird, Draco finally said, sitting opposite Harry. Yeah, Harry agreed. Really weird. So. Draco gestured between them. I'm you, and you're me. Sort of. Harry ran a hand through his hair, a nervous habit they'd both noticed in their letters. Except we're still us. I don't feel like Draco Malfoy. I feel like Harry. Just. Harry Potter instead of Harry Malfoy. And I don't feel like Harry Potter. I'm just Draco. He paused. Guess I should start using Malfoy instead of Potter, though. If we're being technical. Let's not be technical right now, Harry suggested. It's too confusing. I'm still trying to wrap my head around having James and Lily Potter as my real parents. Draco nodded. And I'm still getting used to the idea that Lucius and Narcissa Malfoy are mine. How are they, by the way? You didn't say much in your last letter. Complicated, Harry admitted. Narcissa, I can't call her mother anymore. She's genuinely sorry about the swap. I think she really does love me, even knowing I'm not her biological son. Lucius is harder to read. Part of him seems excited that his real son is the famous boy who lived. Part of him seems uncomfortable having the Potter heir in his house. And how are you handling it? Harry sighed. Some days I'm angry about the lies. Some days I'm sad about the parents I never knew. Some days I just want things to go back to normal, whatever that means now. I get that, Draco said quietly. Sirius has been great, said I'm still his godson no matter what, that he promised James and Lily he'd raise me, and he's keeping that promise. But sometimes I catch him looking at me differently, like he's trying to see Lucius Malfoy in my face. And do you see him in yourself? Draco grimaced. I don't know what Lucius is really like. All I know are the stories Sirius has told me: Death Eater, pureblood supremacist, dark arts enthusiast. But... He hesitated. But I've always had this ambition. This need to prove myself, to be the best. The Sorting Hat wanted to put me in Slytherin. Said I had the cunning and drive for it. He looked down at his hands. I chose Gryffindor because that's what everyone expected from Harry Potter. Harry nodded slowly. The Sorting Hat almost put me in Gryffindor. Said I had courage and a thirst to prove myself. But I begged for Slytherin because that's what was expected of a Malfoy. They stared at each other, the implications sinking in. Nature versus nurture, Draco murmured. Looks like we both got a mix of both. The compartment door slid open, revealing Ron and Hermione. There you are. Hermione exclaimed. We've been looking everywhere for you, Draco. Making friends with the enemy again? Ron asked, eyeing Harry suspiciously. Harry's not the enemy, Draco said firmly. And yes, we're talking. Privately. Ron raised his eyebrows. Since when do you two need private chats? Since none of your business, Weasley, Harry replied, more sharply than he'd intended. Hermione frowned. That was unnecessarily rude. Sorry, Harry sighed. But we really do need some time alone. Important stuff to discuss. What kind of important stuff? Ron pressed. Draco and Harry exchanged glances. Just stuff, Draco said lamely. I'll catch up with you later, okay? Looking hurt and confused, Ron and Hermione withdrew. As the door closed, Harry groaned. That could have gone better. They're going to want answers, Draco warned. Especially Hermione. She doesn't let things go. Are you going to tell them? Harry asked. Draco considered this. Not yet. Not until we figure out what we're doing. Do we switch identities? Keep living as we have been? Try to be some weird hybrid of both? I don't think we can switch, Harry said slowly. Too much has happened. The world knows you as Draco Potter. I've been Harry Malfoy my whole life. So we just keep pretending. Is it pretending, though? We are who we've always been, just with different biological parents than we thought. Draco nodded thoughtfully. I guess you're right. I don't feel any different knowing Narcissa and Lucius Malfoy are my birth parents. I'm still me. Exactly, Harry said. Though I am curious about the Potters, my parents. What were they like? Sirius must have told you stories. Draco's face lit up. All the time. Your dad, James, was his best friend. They were pranksters at school, always in trouble. Called themselves the Marauders. And your mom, Lily, was brilliant at charms and potions. Sirius says she had a temper to match her hair but a heart twice as big. Harry drank in these details hungrily. Tell me more. Everything you know. For the rest of the train ride, Draco shared stories of James and Lily Potter, stories that should have been Harry's heritage but had become Draco's memories instead. Harry listened, imagining these people who had given their lives to protect their son, never knowing they'd died for someone else's child. By the time the train reached Hogsmeade Station, both boys felt lighter somehow, as if sharing the burden of their tangled identities had made it easier to bear. We'll figure this out, Draco said as they prepared to disembark. Together. Harry nodded. Together. Their second year at Hogwarts began with whispers and stares, though not because of their secret. Rather, it was because Harry Malfoy, notorious Slytherin prince, and Draco Potter, Gryffindor golden boy, were openly friendly with each other, sitting together in classes and studying together in the library. "It's unnatural," Ron complained as Draco joined them at the Gryffindor table after spending an hour with Harry. "A Malfoy and a Potter, best mates? Next you'll be telling me Snape's going to adopt Harry and raise him as his own." "Don't be dramatic," Draco rolled his eyes. "Harry's different from the other Slytherins." "Yeah, and I'm secretly a unicorn," Ron muttered. "What do you two talk about all the time anyway?" Draco exchanged a quick glance with Hermione, who had been watching him more closely than usual. "Just stuff. School. Quidditch." It wasn't entirely a lie, they did discuss those things, alongside their ongoing identity crisis. "Speaking of Quidditch," Ron said, "tryouts are this weekend. You're going for Seeker again, right?" Draco nodded, grateful for the change of subject. "Yeah. Harry's trying out for Slytherin too." "Malfoy plays Quidditch?" Ron looked skeptical. "Isn't he too worried about messing up his hair?" "He's actually really good," Draco defended. "We practiced together over the summer." This wasn't exactly true, they hadn't seen each other in person all summer, but it was easier than explaining why he knew Harry was a natural flyer. James Potter's genes, as it turned out, had passed their Quidditch talent to his biological son. Hermione was still watching Draco with that analytical expression she got when solving a particularly tricky puzzle. "You two have gotten very close very suddenly," she observed. "We bonded over the Quirrell thing last year," Draco said with forced casualness. "Near-death experiences do that, I guess." Before Hermione could press further, the evening mail arrived. A handsome eagle owl swooped down, dropping a letter in front of Draco. He recognized Harry's owl immediately and tucked the letter away before Ron could comment on it. "Since when do you get mail from Malfoy's owl?" Ron asked, proving Draco's caution justified. "It's probably from his mother," Draco improvised. "She's been sending me thank you notes all summer for saving her precious son from Quirrell." Ron seemed to accept this, but Hermione's eyes narrowed suspiciously. Later, in the safety of his four-poster bed with the curtains drawn, Draco opened Harry's note. "D. Something weird is happening in Slytherin. Pusey and Flint keep making comments about the Chamber of Secrets being opened again. They shut up whenever they notice me listening. Have you heard anything about this from the Gryffindors? Also, Snape pulled me aside after potions to ask if I was feeling myself lately. I think he suspects something's off with me. We need to be more careful around him, he's too observant." Draco frowned. The Chamber of Secrets? He'd never heard of it. He scribbled a quick reply, "Never heard of any chamber. We'll ask Hermione, if it's in a book, she'll know about it. But carefully, without raising suspicions. Snape's definitely watching you. He keeps looking at me oddly too. Dumbledore might have told him about our situation. Be on guard. Ron's getting jealous of our friendship. I told him we bonded over the Quirrell incident. Play along if it comes up." He sent the note with his own owl at breakfast the next morning, watching as it flew directly to the Slytherin table where Harry sat alone, separated from his housemates by an invisible barrier of mutual distaste. Their eyes met briefly across the hall, and Harry gave an almost imperceptible nod. Later that day, Draco found an opportunity to casually ask Hermione about the chamber while they studied in the library. "Hey, Hermione, have you ever heard of something called the Chamber of Secrets?" She looked up from her Transfiguration essay, eyes alight with academic interest. "The Chamber of Secrets? It's a legend about Hogwarts. Supposedly, Salazar Slytherin built a hidden chamber in the castle before he left the school. The story goes that only his true heir can open it, releasing some kind of monster to purge the school of those Slytherin deemed unworthy to study magic." "Unworthy meaning?" "Muggle-borns," she said grimly. "Why do you ask?" Draco shrugged. Overheard some Slytherins talking about it. Probably nothing. I wouldn't be so sure, Hermione said, glancing around before lowering her voice. Haven't you noticed the atmosphere lately? The Slytherins are all acting strange, like they're expecting something. And Filch's cat was found petrified last night. What? Draco hadn't heard about this. Petrified how? Like a statue. Completely frozen. And there was writing on the wall in blood, the Chamber of Secrets has been opened. Enemies of the air, beware. Draco felt a chill. This was more serious than he'd thought. Does anyone know who did it? No, but... Hermione hesitated. Some people are saying it must be a Slytherin, given the message. A pure-blood fanatic. Draco's first thought was of Harry who was living as a Malfoy, surrounded by pure-blood fanatics, but who was actually a half-blood Potter. Harry who could be in danger if the chamber and its monster were real. I need to go, he said abruptly, gathering his things. Just remembered. Quidditch practice. He hurried from the library, intent on finding Harry to warn him. As he rounded a corner, he collided with someone, Professor Snape. Mr. Potter, Snape drawled, steadying himself. Do watch where you're going. Sorry, Professor, Draco mumbled, trying to step around him. Snape blocked his path. In a hurry to meet Mr. Malfoy, perhaps? Draco froze. I don't know what you mean, sir. Don't you? Snape's black eyes bored into him. Your sudden friendship with Mr. Malfoy has not gone unnoticed. Particularly given certain rumors about your respective origins. Draco's heart hammered. I don't know what rumors you're talking about. Don't you? Snape repeated softly. Perhaps you should ask your godfather about them. The pause before godfather was subtle but unmistakable. Is that all, sir? Draco managed, fighting to keep his voice steady. Snape studied him for a long moment. For now, Mr. Potter. But remember, some secrets at Hogwarts are more dangerous than others. Be careful which ones you uncover. With a swirl of his black robes, Snape strode away, leaving Draco shaken. That had definitely been a warning, but about what? The Chamber of Secrets? Or about his and Harry's true identities? He found Harry in the courtyard, sitting alone beneath a tree with a book. Without preamble, Draco dropped down beside him. The Chamber of Secrets is real, he said quietly. And it's been opened. Filch's cat was petrified. Harry closed his book. I know. The whole school's talking about it. And Snape knows about us, Draco added. He just confronted me. Made comments about our origins, and suggested I ask Sirius about rumors. Harry paled. That's not good. If Snape knows, then others might too, Draco finished. Which means we could both be in danger if this chamber business targets people with impure blood. You're technically a half-blood, and people think I'm one. Great, Harry muttered. As if being secretly swapped at birth wasn't complicated enough. Now we have to worry about some monster hunting Muggleborns. We need to be careful, Draco said. Stay alert. And maybe. He hesitated, maybe we should tell Ron and Hermione the truth. We could use their help. Harry considered this. You trust them that much? With my life, Draco said without hesitation. And they're already suspicious. Hermione's too smart for her own good. Harry nodded slowly. Okay. But we tell them together. And we swear them to absolute secrecy. Agreed. As they sat planning how to break the news to Ron and Hermione, neither noticed the small red-headed figure watching them from behind a pillar, clutching a black diary to her chest, Ginny Weasley, her eyes oddly vacant, observing their secretive conversation with unnatural stillness. Telling Ron and Hermione proved as difficult as they'd anticipated. The four of them gathered in an unused classroom, Harry and Draco standing side by side facing their confused friends. "What's this all about?" Ron demanded. "Why all the secrecy? And why is Malfoy here?" Hermione added, eyeing Harry suspiciously. "Because," Draco began, taking a deep breath, "he's not really Malfoy. And I'm not really Potter." Ron stared blankly. "Have you gone mental?" "Just listen," Harry said. "This is going to sound insane, but we can prove it." Together, they explained everything: the swap, the confrontations with their parents, Dumbledore's confirmation, the dual protection that had burned Quirrell, the strange comments from the Sorting Hat. As they spoke, Hermione's expression changed from skepticism to stunned belief, while Ron's mouth hung progressively more open. That's impossible," Ron finally spluttered when they finished. "You're saying you're actually a Malfoy?" He pointed at Draco. "And you're actually Harry Potter?" He swung his finger to Harry. "By birth, yes," Harry confirmed. "Though we've decided to keep using the names we've always had. It's less confusing." "Less confusing?" Ron exclaimed. "This is the most confusing thing I've ever heard." Hermione, meanwhile, had been unusually quiet, her brow furrowed in concentration. "It makes sense," she said finally. "All those little inconsistencies. Harry's green eyes when both Malfoys have gray or blue. Draco's blonde hair when the Potters had black and red. The way you both reacted to the mirror of Eriste last year. The way you both could touch Quirrell." She looked between them, her eyes sharp. "But why are you telling us now? What's changed?" "The Chamber of Secrets," Draco explained. "If it really is targeting Muggleborns and impure of blood, then Harry could be in danger in Slytherin if anyone discovers he's really a Potter. And we're worried someone already suspects. Snape's been dropping hints. Plus we needed someone else to know," Harry added. "It's been hard, keeping this secret alone." Ron still looked dazed. "So when you know who attacked the Potters?" "He was really attacking Draco Malfoy," Harry confirmed. "Only everyone, including Voldemort, thought Draco was me. So when Lily Potter sacrificed herself to save her son, she was actually saving my son," came a voice from the doorway. All four whirled to find Narcissa Malfoy standing there, elegant as always in sapphire blue robes. Behind her, looking considerably less pleased, stood Lucius. "Mother," Harry gasped. "Father. What are you doing here?" "Professor Snape contacted us," Lucius said coldly. "He suggested our presence might be required, given certain discussions taking place." Draco stared at the woman who had given birth to him, meeting her eyes, identical to his own in shape and color, for the first time with full awareness of their connection. "Mrs. Malfoy," he said stiffly. "Draco," she whispered, stepping forward. "My son." Ron and Hermione exchanged alarmed glances, clearly wondering if they should leave or stay for moral support. "Perhaps," Lucius suggested with icy politeness, "the young Mr. Weasley and Miss Granger," Hermione supplied. "Miss Granger might give us some privacy for a family discussion." "They stay," Harry and Draco said simultaneously. "We've just told them everything," Harry added. "And we trust them." Narcissa nodded, surprising everyone. "Very well. They should hear this too, then. Especially given the danger." "What danger?" Hermione asked sharply. Narcissa turned to her, seeming to really see her for the first time. "You're Muggleborn," she stated rather than asked. At Hermione's defiant nod, she continued, "Then you, especially, need to be careful. The Chamber of Secrets has indeed been opened. The monster within targets Muggleborn specifically." "You know about the chamber?" Ron asked suspiciously. "How?" "Because it was opened once before," Lucius said. "When we were students. A Muggleborn girl died." The four students exchanged horrified glances. "But that's not why we're here," Narcissa continued. We've come because the situation has become more complicated. The Dark Lord's diary has found its way to Hogwarts. Diary? Draco repeated. What diary? Lucius and Narcissa exchanged glances. The diary is a powerful dark artifact, Lucius explained reluctantly. It contains a memory of the Dark Lord from his school days, when he was still Tom Riddle. It possesses whoever writes in it, allowing Riddle to control them, making them open the chamber and release the monster. How do you know all this? Harry demanded, a terrible suspicion forming. Lucius avoided his gaze. Because I was entrusted with it, after the Dark Lord's fall. I was meant to keep it safe until his return. And instead you slipped it to an unsuspecting student, Narcissa said sharply. Without consulting me. Harry stared at the man who had raised him. You brought this danger to Hogwarts. Knowing what it could do. I had my reasons, Lucius said stiffly. Political reasons, Harry guessed bitterly. To discredit Arthur Weasley and his Muggle Protection Act. Ron's face flushed with anger. You endangered everyone at Hogwarts to get at my dad. That's not important now, Narcissa cut in. What matters is finding the diary and destroying it before anyone else gets hurt. And... She hesitated, before anyone discovers the truth about your birth identities. Why would that matter? Hermione asked. Because, Narcissa explained, the monster in the chamber is a basilisk. It kills with its gaze, but those who see its reflection or see it indirectly merely become petrified. And the only person who can control it is a Parselmouth, someone who can speak to snakes. Like Voldemort, Harry said. Yes, Narcissa nodded. But also like you, Harry. You're a Parselmouth too, aren't you? You've always had that ability. It was one of the things that made me wonder, over the years. Harry nodded reluctantly. Yes. I've always been able to talk to snakes. But I kept it secret because... He glanced at Draco, who was staring at him in shock. Because it's considered a dark gift, Lucius finished. Associated with Salazar Slytherin himself. But that makes no sense, Hermione objected. If Harry is really Harry Potter, how could he be a Parselmouth? That's not a Potter family trait. A heavy silence fell over the room. Narcissa and Lucius exchanged loaded glances. We believe, Narcissa said carefully, that when the Dark Lord tried to kill Draco, thinking he was Harry Potter, and the curse rebounded, something of his powers transferred to the child he marked. But he marked me, Draco pointed to his lightning scar. Not Harry. Physically, yes, Lucius agreed. But magically, the situation is more complex. The protection Lily Potter created by her sacrifice affected both of you in different ways. And the Dark Lord's attempt to kill the Child of Prophecy may have affected both of you as well. So you think I got Voldemort's Parseltongue ability even though he actually attacked Draco? Harry asked incredulously. Magic rarely follows our expectations perfectly, Narcissa said. Especially magic as powerful and unprecedented as what happened that night. Hermione was nodding slowly. It's possible. If Harry and Draco were still magically linked because of the swap, because the world still recognized Draco as Harry Potter. This is making my head hurt, Ron groaned. The point, Lucius cut in impatiently, is that the Parseltongue ability makes Harry both uniquely dangerous and uniquely vulnerable in the current situation. If it becomes known that Harry Malfoy can speak to snakes, questions will be asked, questions that could expose the swap. And if Voldemort's diary self discovers the truth, Narcissa added, he could target either of you. Or both of you. So what do we do? Draco asked. Find the diary, Narcissa said firmly. Destroy it. And how do we do that? Harry challenged. We don't even know who has it. An uncomfortable expression crossed Lucius's face. I may have placed it in the possession of young Miss Weasley, he admitted. During an altercation with her father at Flourish and Blots before term. Ginny. Ron roared, lunging forward. Only Hermione's quick grab at his robes stopped him from attacking Lucius. You used my little sister for your political games? It was a mistake, Lucius said, though he didn't sound particularly apologetic. One we're trying to rectify now. We need to find Ginny, Draco decided, already heading for the door. Before the diary makes her do something terrible. Wait, Narcissa called. There's something else you should know. The basilisk, it travels through the school's plumbing system. That's how it's been moving around unseen. And the entrance to the chamber, Lucius added, is believed to be in a bathroom. Possibly the one where the girl died last time. Moaning Myrtle's bathroom, Hermione gasped. She's a ghost who haunts a girl's toilet on the second floor. She must be the victim from the last time. Go, Narcissa urged. Find Miss Weasley and the diary. We'll alert the staff. As the 4 students raced from the room, Narcissa called after them, be careful. All of you. They found Ginny in a trance-like state, walking toward Moaning Myrtle's bathroom with the black diary clutched to her chest. Her normally bright eyes were dull and unfocused, and she didn't respond when Ron called her name. Ginny, he tried again, grabbing her shoulder. Snap out of it. She turned to him slowly, her movements jerky like a puppet's. Hello, brother, she said in a voice that wasn't quite her own. Come to join the fun. She's possessed, Hermione whispered. The diary, we need to get it away from her. Draco lunged forward, trying to snatch the book from Ginny's hands, but she was surprisingly strong, shoving him back with unnatural force. Not yet, she said in that same wrong voice. First, I have questions for these two. She pointed at Harry and Draco. The boys with the switched destinies. Harry felt a chill. Tom Riddle, he said, recognizing instinctively who was speaking through Ginny. That's who you are, isn't you? Ginny's face twisted into a smile that didn't belong on her features. Very good, Harry Potter. Or should I call you Harry Malfoy? Little Ginny has been writing to me all about you too. About her suspicions that something wasn't quite right. Let her go, Draco demanded. She has nothing to do with this. Oh, but she has everything to do with this, Ginny/Riddle replied. She's been so very helpful, opening the chamber for me, setting the basilisk on mudbloods. And now, she's going to help me meet the boy who lived, whichever one of you that really is. Without warning, Ginny spun and dashed into the bathroom. By the time they followed, she was standing before a sink, hissing in a language none of them recognized, except Harry. She's speaking Parseltongue, he realized aloud. She's opening the chamber. The sink began to move, revealing a large pipe disappearing into darkness. Before anyone could stop her, Ginny jumped into it, sliding out of sight. Ginny! Ron cried, moving to follow. Wait! Hermione grabbed him. We need a plan. That's a basilisk down there. We need to close our eyes or look at it indirectly, Harry said. Through a reflection or something. Hermione pulled a small compact mirror from her pocket. I've been carrying this since I figured out it was a basilisk. But we need more. Ron was frantically searching his pockets. I've got nothing. Here, Draco pulled out his remembrall. It's reflective enough. Harry checked his own pockets, finding a silver sickle. This will work for me. And I'll use my watch, Hermione decided, angling the face. Remember, don't look it directly in the eyes, not even in reflection. Just enough to see where you're going. I'm going first, Ron insisted. No, Harry stepped forward. I should go first. I can speak Parseltongue, I might be able to control the basilisk, or at least distract it. We go together, Draco said firmly. All of us. They nodded grimly, then one by one, slid down the pipe into the Chamber of Secrets. They landed in a damp stone tunnel littered with small animal bones. Following the passage, they eventually emerged into a vast chamber with towering stone pillars carved with serpents. At the far end stood an enormous statue of Salazar Slytherin, his mouth open wide. And before it, Ginny lay motionless on the floor, the diary still clutched in her pale hands. Beside her stood the transparent figure of a handsome teenage boy, growing more solid by the moment as Ginny grew paler. "Tom Riddle," Harry said, stepping forward. The boy smiled coldly. "Harry Potter, or is it Malfoy? And Draco Malfoy, or is it Potter? How delightfully confusing." "Let Ginny go," Ron demanded, kneeling beside his sister. "I'm afraid I can't do that," Riddle said. "You see, little Ginny has been giving me her life force all year. Soon, I'll be fully corporeal, and she'll be dead." "You're Voldemort," Draco realized aloud. "A younger version." Riddle's smile widened. "Very good. The name I would later adopt. But I'm curious, which of you actually survived my killing curse? Which of you bears my mark?" "I do," Draco said, pushing back his fringe to reveal the lightning scar. "But he's not who you think he is," Harry added. "He's not Harry Potter by birth. I am." Riddle looked between them, fascinated. "How extraordinary. The night I attacked the Potters, I was actually attacking the Malfoy heir. And the true Potter child was safe in Malfoy Manor?" He laughed, a high, cold sound. "Oh, the irony is delicious." "Enough talk," Harry said. "We're taking Ginny and leaving." "I think not," Riddle replied. "You see, I have questions. About how a mere infant, whichever of you it was, managed to defeat the greatest wizard of all time. And about this unique bond you seem to share. But first." He turned to the statue and hissed in Parseltongue, "Speak to me, Slytherin, greatest of the Hogwarts Four." The statue's mouth began to open wider, revealing a dark tunnel within. Something massive was moving inside. "The basilisk!" Hermione cried. "Don't look at it directly." They all averted their eyes, using their makeshift reflectors to see indirectly. From the corner of his eye, Harry caught a glimpse of enormous scales as the basilisk emerged from the statue. Riddle hissed again, and Harry understood, "Kill them all." Without thinking, Harry stepped forward and hissed back, "Stop." To everyone's shock, including Riddle's, the basilisk paused. "Who speaks?" it demanded in a sibilant voice. "I do," Harry replied in Parseltongue. "I command you to return to your chamber." The basilisk swayed, confused. "Two masters. Impossible." Riddle hissed furiously, "I am the heir of Slytherin. Obey me." The basilisk's massive head turned between them, torn between conflicting commands. "It's not working," Harry said to the others in English. "Run." They scattered as the basilisk, apparently deciding to follow Riddle's orders, lunged toward them. Ron dragged Ginny behind a pillar while Hermione and Draco dove in opposite directions. Harry found himself facing the basilisk alone, his back against a wall. He kept his eyes firmly on the creature's body, not daring to look at its face. It towered over him, preparing to strike. Then, from above, came a flash of scarlet and gold. Fawkes, Dumbledore's phoenix, swooped in, clawing at the basilisk's eyes. The serpent thrashed and hissed in pain as the phoenix blinded it, rendering its deadly gaze harmless. "No!" Riddle screamed. "Kill the boy. You don't need eyes to smell him." The blinded basilisk lunged again, this time following Harry's scent. He dodged, but not quickly enough. One of its fangs grazed his arm, leaving a deep gash. Searing pain shot through him as the venom entered his bloodstream. "Harry!" Draco shouted, rushing to his side. "You're hurt." "The diary," Harry gasped, fighting through the pain. "Destroy the diary. It's the source of Riddle's power." Draco looked around frantically, spotting the diary where it had fallen from Ginny's hands. He lunged for it, but Riddle was faster, snatching it up. "Looking for this?" he taunted. "Too late. In moments, Ginny Weasley will be dead, and I will live again." The basilisk, meanwhile, had turned toward the sound of Hermione and Ron trying to move Ginny. It slithered toward them, tongue flicking to follow their scent. "No." Harry tried to stand, but the venom was spreading, weakening him. He watched helplessly as the basilisk closed in on his friends. Then, impossibly, Draco stepped directly into its path. "Itchy eye," he shouted. "Over here, you overgrown worm." The basilisk swung toward him, jaws opening wide. In that moment, Fawkes dropped something at Draco's feet, the sorting hat. Without thinking, Draco reached into it and pulled out a gleaming silver sword with rubies set in the hilt. As the basilisk struck, Draco thrust the sword upward with all his strength, driving it through the roof of the serpent's mouth and into its brain. The creature gave one last shuddering hiss and collapsed, dead. But one of its fangs had caught Draco too, piercing his shoulder. He staggered back, the venom already working through his system. "Two for the price of one," Riddle laughed, watching as both boys struggled against the basilisk venom. "How fitting that you should die together, the boy with the wrong name and the boy with the wrong blood." Fawkes flew to Harry first, landing beside him. Great pearly tears fell from the phoenix's eyes onto Harry's wound. Immediately, the pain began to recede as the healing tears counteracted the venom. "Phoenix tears," Riddle spat. "Of course. Healing powers. But it's too late for your friend, I think." Indeed, Draco looked worse, his face gray as the venom spread. Fawkes rushed to him next, crying more healing tears onto his wound. Meanwhile, Harry, strength returning, staggered to his feet and stumbled toward Riddle, who was still holding the diary. "Give me that," Harry demanded. Riddle backed away, smiling cruelly. "Come and take it, Potter who is a Malfoy." Harry glanced at the dead basilisk, its fangs still gleaming with venom. He wrenched one free and turned back to Riddle. "That won't hurt me," Riddle sneered. "No," Harry agreed. "But it will hurt this." And he plunged the fong directly into the heart of the diary. Ink spurted from the book like blood as Riddle screamed, a terrible, unearthly sound. His form began to fracture, light spilling from the cracks appearing across his body. With one final, agonized shriek, he exploded into nothingness. Silence fell in the chamber, broken only by the dripping of water from the ceiling. Ginny stirred, color returning to her cheeks as Riddle's hold on her life force broke. "What, where am I?" she murmured as Ron helped her sit up. "It's okay," he soothed. "It's over. The diary's destroyed." Harry dropped to his knees beside Draco, who was sitting up now as Fawkes's tears healed his wound. Their eyes met, green to gray, a silent acknowledgement of what they'd just survived together. "You saved them," Harry said quietly. "That was incredibly brave." "Yeah, well," Draco managed a weak smile. "Turns out I'm a Gryffindor after all, blood or not." Harry laughed, a release of tension and fear. "And I used cunning and self-preservation to defeat Riddle. Proper Slytherin tactics." "Nature and nurture," Hermione said, joining them. "You're both products of both." Fawkes circled above them, trilling a haunting, beautiful note that somehow lifted their spirits and gave them strength. The phoenix then flew to the entrance of the chamber, hovering expectantly. "I think he wants to take us back up," Harry said, struggling to his feet and helping Draco up. Together, the five of them, Harry, Draco, Ron, Hermione, and a confused but recovering Ginny, grabbed hold of Fawkes's tail feathers. With a surge of magic that defied the bird's apparent size, they were lifted upward through the pipes and back to Moaning Myrtle's bathroom. They emerged to find the school in chaos. News of Ginny's disappearance had spread, and the staff was preparing to evacuate Hogwarts. When they stumbled into McGonagall's office, covered in slime, blood, and ink, but victorious, the reactions ranged from shock to elation. Mrs. Weasley, who had arrived with her husband upon hearing of Ginny's disappearance, engulfed her daughter in a crushing hug. Dumbledore's eyes twinkled with pride as Harry explained what had happened, carefully omitting the details about his and Draco's true parentage in front of the Weasleys. "The sword," McGonagall gasped when Draco handed it to Dumbledore. "That's Godric Gryffindor's sword. It's been lost for centuries. Only a true Gryffindor could have pulled that from the hat," Dumbledore said, smiling at Draco. "You've done your house proud, Mr. Potter." Draco glanced at Harry, a silent question in his eyes. Harry nodded slightly, a permission to reveal the truth, at least to Dumbledore. "Professor," Draco said hesitantly. "There's something you should know. Something about me and Harry." "Ah," Dumbledore's smile turned knowing. "I believe I already do, Mr. Malfoy. Or should I say, Mr. Malfoy Potter?" The room fell silent as everyone stared at Dumbledore. "You knew?" Harry asked. "All this time?" "I suspected," Dumbledore admitted. "From the moment you both arrived at Hogwarts. The resemblances were telling. But I had no proof until Professor Snape brought certain observations to my attention earlier this year." "Then you know that I'm actually," Harry began. "Harry Potter by birth, yes," Dumbledore nodded. "And Mr. Potter here is actually Draco Malfoy by birth. A most unusual situation, created by a mother's desperate attempt to protect her child." The Weasleys looked utterly lost. "What are you talking about?" Mr. Weasley asked. Dumbledore glanced at Harry and Draco. "Perhaps that explanation is best saved for another time. For now, let us focus on the fact that these brave students have saved the school from a terrible threat. 50 points each to Gryffindor and Slytherin for extraordinary courage and friendship that transcends house rivalries." Later, after the Weasleys had taken Ginny to the hospital wing and McGonagall had gone to arrange for a celebratory feast, Dumbledore spoke privately with Harry and Draco. "You faced Lord Voldemort again," he said gravely. "Both of you. And once again, you both survived. Because of Fawkes," Harry said. "And because of Draco's bravery with the sword. And your quick thinking with the basilisk Fong," Draco added. "Indeed," Dumbledore smiled. "You complement each other remarkably well. Perhaps that is no accident." "Sir?" Harry prompted. "The prophecy that led to Narcissa Malfoy's desperate act spoke of a child born as the seventh month dies who would have the power to vanquish the Dark Lord," Dumbledore explained. "Both of you were born on July 31st. Both of you have now faced Voldemort multiple times and survived. I begin to wonder if the prophecy referred not to one child, but effectively to both of you, linked as you are by Narcissa's actions and by your shared birthday." "You think we're both the child of prophecy?" Draco asked incredulously. "I think," Dumbledore said carefully, "that prophecies are notoriously difficult to interpret, especially before they have fully unfolded. But I do believe that together, you two represent a force that Voldemort has consistently underestimated. Your connection, born of unusual circumstances but strengthened by your own choices, may be your greatest power against him." "So what happens now?" Harry asked. "Do we tell everyone the truth? Go back to our biological families?" Dumbledore sighed. "That decision must ultimately be yours. But I would caution against hasty changes. You have both been raised in your respective homes for 11 years. Those bonds are not easily broken or replaced, regardless of blood. So we just keep pretending?" Draco frowned. "I would not call it pretending," Dumbledore said gently. "You are who you have always been. Harry, raised as a Malfoy but with Potter's blood and natural inclinations. Draco, raised as Harry Potter but with Malfoy heritage evident in your appearance and certain traits. Neither identity is false, they are simply complex." The boys exchanged glances, considering this. "I don't want to leave Sirius," Draco admitted. "He's the only family I've really known. And despite everything," Harry said, "the Malfoys did raise me. Narcissa, at least, seems to genuinely love me." Dumbledore nodded. Then perhaps, for now, you maintain your current living arrangements, while allowing yourselves to learn more about your biological families. Perhaps visits, letters, shared holidays. A gradual integration rather than a dramatic upheaval. And what about at school? Harry asked. Do we tell people? That is a more complex question, Dumbledore mused. The truth could put you both in danger when Voldemort eventually returns, as I fear he will. It could also lead to difficult questions about the prophecy and which of you he should truly fear. For now, I suggest discretion. Tell only those you trust implicitly. As they left Dumbledore's office, Draco turned to Harry. So, brothers, kind of. By mixed-up destiny if not by blood. Harry smiled. Brothers, he agreed, extending his hand. Draco took it, but instead of shaking it, pulled Harry into a quick, awkward hug. Brothers, he repeated. The end of the school year brought a welcome peace after the chaos of the chamber. Ginny recovered fully, though she would need time to process the trauma of being possessed by Voldemort's memory. The basilisk victims were successfully unpetrified, including Mrs. Norris and several students. Harry and Draco maintained their unusual friendship openly now, though only Ron, Hermione, and a select few adults knew the truth behind it. They had decided to follow Dumbledore's advice and take their time figuring out what their discovered identities meant for their futures. On the last day of term, they sat together on the Hogwarts Express, sharing a compartment with Ron and Hermione. The conversation flowed easily now, the initial awkwardness of their revelation having faded. So what happens this summer? Ron asked. Are you two swapping houses or something? No, Harry said. Not yet, anyway. But Sirius has invited me to visit for a week in July. To get to know him, and to learn more about my biological parents. And I'm spending a weekend at Malfoy Manor, Draco added, looking slightly uncomfortable. Narcissa, my birth mother, she's been writing to me. She seems nice, actually. Just be careful around Lucius, Harry warned. He's complicated. That's one word for it, Ron muttered. What about you two? Harry asked, changing the subject. Any summer plans? We're going to Egypt. Ron said excitedly. Dad won some gold in the Daily Profit draw. Going to visit my brother Bill. That sounds wonderful, Hermione smiled. I'm going to France with my parents. I've already found some fascinating books on French wizarding history. Of course you have, Draco teased, earning a playful swat from Hermione. As the train pulled into King's Cross, they gathered their belongings, preparing to disembark. On the platform, they could see their families waiting, the Weasleys in their cheerful cluster, the Grangers looking slightly overwhelmed by the magical surroundings, Sirius standing tall and handsome in casual Muggle clothes, and the Malfoys elegant and aloof at a careful distance from everyone else. Write to me, Harry said to Draco. About everything. You too, Draco replied. And remember, you can always come stay with me and Sirius if things get weird at the manor. Same goes for you, Harry said. Though I'm not sure you'd enjoy Malfoy hospitality. Probably not, Draco grinned. But it might be educational. They parted ways on the platform, each heading toward the family that had raised them, while casting glances at the family they might have had. It was strange and complicated and uncertain, but as Harry approached Narcissa's waiting embrace, he felt a curious sense of possibility. They had survived Voldemort twice now. They had discovered a truth that should have torn them apart but had somehow brought them closer together. Whatever came next, whatever it meant to be Harry Potter raised as a Malfoy, or Draco Malfoy raised as the boy who lived, they would face it together. As brothers, if not by blood, then by the stranger, stronger bonds of chosen family and shared destiny. Chapter 3, Blood and Choices. Harry stood outside the modest country cottage, his stomach doing nervous flips. The building looked nothing like Malfoy Manor's imposing grandeur. It was warm, inviting, a proper home with slightly overgrown rosebushes and Quidditch gear scattered across the front lawn. You planning to stand there all day? Sirius Black called from the doorway, his smile wide but his eyes cautious. Harry gripped his overnight bag tighter. Sorry, just taking it in. This was weird. Beyond weird. He was visiting the man who would have raised him if Narcissa hadn't swapped him with her biological son. The man who should have been his godfather. The man who represented the life Harry Potter was meant to have. Come on in, Sirius said, stepping aside. Draco's been cleaning his room all morning to impress you. Don't tell him I told you that. Harry smiled despite his nerves. My lips are sealed. The inside of the cottage was exactly what Harry had imagined the anti-Malfoy manor would look like. Mismatched furniture that looked comfortable rather than expensive. Photos everywhere, some moving, some Muggle-style still images. Books and magazines stacked haphazardly. A Gryffindor banner hanging proudly in the living room. And then there was Draco, hovering awkwardly at the bottom of the stairs. Hey, he said. Hey, Harry replied. They stared at each other for a beat before Sirius clapped his hands. Right. Who wants lunch? I've made sandwiches. Well, I've assembled sandwiches. Well, I've put things between bread. You'll be fine. That broke the tension. Harry laughed, and Draco rolled his eyes with a familiar expression that was pure Narcissa. Sirius can't cook to save his life, Draco explained as they followed Sirius to the kitchen. Remus usually handles that when he's here. Is Professor Lupin coming by? Harry asked, remembering the gentle defense against the dark arts teacher who'd started at Hogwarts last term. Later tonight, Sirius confirmed, setting plates on the worn kitchen table. He's got some business with Dumbledore first. Something about improved security measures for next term. Harry nodded, sitting across from Draco. It was surreal seeing his friend, his biological cousin, technically, in his home environment. Draco looked more relaxed here, less guarded than at school. So, Sirius said, studying Harry over his sandwich, how are things at the manor? Harry shrugged. Tense. Lucius is, processing. He keeps giving me these looks like he's not sure what to do with me anymore. Narcissa's been great, though. Supportive. She always did have more sense than her husband, Sirius muttered. Then, seeming to catch himself, he added, sorry. That's your father, or the man who raised you. I shouldn't speak ill of him. It's fine, Harry said. I know what Lucius is. I'm not blind. You call them by their first names now? Draco asked curiously. Harry poked at his sandwich. Sometimes. It feels weird saying mother and father knowing they're not, you know. But it also feels weird not to. It's complicated. Tell me about it, Draco sighed. I spent an hour yesterday practicing saying Narcissa instead of Mrs. Malfoy before my visit this weekend. She'd probably be fine with you calling her mother, Harry said. She thinks of you that way. I'm not ready for that, Draco said firmly. Feels like betraying. He glanced at Sirius, who was pretending not to listen too intently. Your real mum, Harry finished. Lily Potter. Yeah. Sirius set down his sandwich. Look, boys, I know this whole situation is a complicated mess. But there's something you should understand. Family isn't just blood. James wasn't my biological brother, but he was my brother in every way that mattered. You two get to decide what you call people, what relationships you build, what names you use. The problem is, Harry said, I don't know who I am anymore. Am I Harry Malfoy with Potter blood? Am I Harry Potter who happens to live with the Malfoys? Who am I supposed to be? Exactly, Draco agreed. Everyone has expectations. Sirius wants me to be James and Lily's son. The Malfoys want me to be their heir. The wizarding world wants me to be the boy who lived. It's exhausting. Sirius leaned forward, his expression serious. Then ignore everyone's expectations. Figure out who you want to be. Both of you. The wisdom in those words lingered as they finished lunch. Afterward, Draco gave Harry a tour of the cottage, ending with his bedroom, a space plastered with Quidditch posters, photos of him with Sirius and Remus, and surprisingly, several Muggle Rock Band posters. Sirius loves Muggle music, Draco explained, noticing Harry's surprised look. Says it's better than wizard stuff. Part of his whole rebellion against pureblood nonsense. Harry nodded, picking up a framed photo from Draco's nightstand. It showed James and Lily Potter on their wedding day, laughing and dancing. My parents, Harry said softly. My real parents. Yeah, Draco said, sitting on his bed. Sirius has loads of photos. I figured you'd want to see them. Thanks, Harry said, his throat tight as he stared at the faces he'd only glimpsed in the mirror of Eriste. James with his messy black hair and glasses, Lily with her brilliant green eyes, his eyes. Draco pulled a box from under his bed. There are more in here. And letters they wrote to Sirius. And baby pictures of, well, me, but they thought I was you. Harry set down the wedding photo and opened the box almost reverently. This was his heritage, the life he should have had. This feels like grave robbing, he murmured, lifting out a stack of photos. What? Draco looked confused. These memories, these moments, they belong to you. You lived them, even if you weren't who they thought you were. I feel like I'm stealing something that isn't mine. Draco was quiet for a moment. I never thought of it that way. But they're your biological parents. You have every right to know them. Harry sifted through photos, baby Draco being held by James, Lily reading to a toddler Draco, Sirius teaching a tiny Draco to ride a toy broomstick. A life Harry should have lived but never did. What was it like, he asked suddenly. Growing up with Sirius? Draco smiled. Chaotic. Fun. He's more like a big brother sometimes than a parent. Always pulling pranks, teaching me mischief. But he's fiercely protective too. Used to check under my bed for monsters every night until I was 9. Sounds nice, Harry said, trying to keep the wistfulness from his voice. What about the Malfoys? Draco asked, genuine curiosity in his eyes. What was it like growing up as, well, me? Structured. Formal. Everything had rules, how to sit, how to eat, who to talk to. Lucius was always lecturing about family pride and bloodlines. But Narcissa. Harry smiled slightly. She'd sneak into my room at night and tell me stories. Real ones, not the sanitized pure-blood versions Lucius preferred. And she'd defend me when I didn't quite meet Lucius's standards. She sounds nicer than I expected. She is, Harry confirmed. She did what she did to protect you. It was wrong, but I understand why. They fell silent, each contemplating the life they might have had. Want to fly? Draco eventually asked, breaking the thoughtful silence. Sirius charmed the back garden so the neighbors can't see. We could practice some seeker drills. Harry grinned. Absolutely. The weekend arrived too quickly, and Draco found himself standing at the gates of Malfoy Manor, fighting the urge to turn and run. It's just 2 days, Sirius reminded him, straightening Draco's collar unnecessarily. And if you need me, use the mirror. I'll come get you immediately. Draco nodded, patting his pocket where the enchanted hand mirror Sirius had given him was safely tucked away. I'll be fine. Harry survived there for 11 years. I can handle a weekend. The gates opened silently, revealing a peacock-lined path leading to the most intimidating house Draco had ever seen. Standing on the front steps was a woman with platinum blonde hair identical to his own, Narcissa Malfoy. His birth mother. Remember, Sirius whispered, you don't owe them anything. This is just to satisfy your curiosity. Got it, Draco whispered back. Then, squaring his shoulders, he walked forward. Narcissa's face lit up as he approached, though she maintained her composure. "Draco," she said, her voice warm. "Welcome to Malfoy Manor. You're home." "Mrs. Malfoy," he replied formally. "Thank you for having me." A flicker of disappointment crossed her face at the formal address, but she covered it quickly. "Please, come inside. Harry is waiting in the garden." Draco turned to wave goodbye to Sirius, who gave him an encouraging nod before disapparating with a crack. Then, taking a deep breath, Draco followed Narcissa into the manor. The entrance hall alone was bigger than the entire ground floor of Sirius's cottage. Everything gleamed with wealth and power: marble floors, ancestral portraits, antique furnishings that probably cost more than Sirius's entire house. "It's a bit much, isn't it?" Harry said, appearing from a side door. He looked more comfortable than Draco had ever seen him at school, moving through the manor with the ease of someone who'd grown up navigating its grandeur. "Just a bit," Draco agreed, relieved to see a friendly face. "I'll leave you boys to catch up," Narcissa said. "Lunch will be served in the garden at 1. Draco, your room is prepared whenever you wish to see it." After she glided away, Draco turned to Harry. "My room?" "Your ancestral bedroom," Harry explained with a slight smirk. "The Malfoy heir's traditional chambers. It's been redecorated about 6 times this week. Narcissa couldn't decide if you prefer green and silver or blue and bronze." "What did she pick?" "See for yourself," Harry said, leading the way upstairs. The room was palatial compared to Draco's bedroom at the cottage. A massive 4-poster bed dominated one wall, draped in midnight blue with silver accents. The ceiling was enchanted to show constellations, currently displaying Draco's namesake dragon constellation. "She went with Ravenclaw colors," Draco noted, running a hand over the silken bedspread. "Neutral territory," Harry explained. "Not Slytherin, not Gryffindor. She's trying really hard not to pressure you." Draco wandered the room, examining the antique desk, the massive wardrobe, the bookshelf filled with volumes on wizarding genealogy and history. Everything screamed old money and older magic. "This would have been my life," he murmured. "Yeah," Harry said, leaning against the doorframe. "Still could be, I suppose. If you wanted." Draco shot him a sharp look. "What's that supposed to mean?" Harry shrugged. "Just that you're the biological Malfoy heir. If you wanted to claim your birthright, I don't think Lucius or Narcissa would object." "And what about you? Would you just go live with Sirius?" "I don't know," Harry admitted. "I've been asking myself the same question. Where do I belong now? With the Malfoys who raised me? With Sirius who should have raised me? Somewhere else entirely? It's a mess," Draco sighed, sinking onto the bed. "Complete disaster," Harry agreed, sitting beside him. "But at least we're figuring it out together. Speaking of which, I should warn you, Lucius will be at lunch." Draco tensed. "Right. My biological father. The Death Eater." "Former Death Eater," Harry corrected automatically, then grimaced. "Sorry." Force of habit defending him. "What's he like?" Draco asked. "Really like, not just what Sirius says." Harry considered this. "Complicated. Cold on the surface. Calculating. Everything's about advantage and position with him. But he does care about family, in his way. He just shows it by ensuring we have power and status rather than, actual affection." "Sounds charming," Draco said sarcastically. "Just be yourself," Harry advised. "That'll confuse him more than anything." Lunch was excruciating. Narcissa maintained a stream of pleasant conversation, asking Draco carefully neutral questions about school and his interests. Harry contributed occasionally, helping smooth over awkward pauses. And Lucius. Lucius watched Draco with the clinical interest of someone inspecting a rare specimen. Your academic performance is impressive, Lucius finally said during dessert. Top of your class in most subjects, I understand. Joint top with Hermione Granger, Draco corrected. She beats me in arithmancy and ancient runes. I do better in defense and transfiguration. Granger, Lucius repeated, his lip curling slightly. The Muggle-born girl. My friend, Draco said firmly, meeting Lucius's gaze. The brightest witch in our year. Harry tensed beside him, but Draco refused to back down. If they wanted to know him, they needed to accept his friends. To his surprise, Narcissa stepped in smoothly. Intelligence should always be respected, regardless of its source. Wouldn't you agree, Lucius? After a brief, loaded pause, Lucius inclined his head. Natural talent is commendable. It wasn't exactly a warm endorsement of Muggleborns, but it was more diplomatic than Draco had expected. I understand you'll be starting third year, Lucius continued. Have you given thought to your future career path? Draco blinked at the abrupt change of subject. I'm 13. I've got time to decide. It's never too early for proper planning, Lucius countered. The Malfoy family has traditionally held significant influence in the Ministry, particularly in the Department of International Magical Cooperation. I was thinking more along the lines of professional Quidditch, actually, Draco said, enjoying the brief flash of horror on Lucius's face. Or maybe a cursebreaker like Bill Weasley. Harry choked on his pumpkin juice, clearly fighting back laughter. I see, Lucius said stiffly. Well, there's plenty of time to develop more suitable ambitions. Draco has shown remarkable aptitude for defense against the dark arts, Narcissa interjected. Perhaps a career as an Auror would combine his talents with more traditional family influence. An Auror, Lucius repeated, looking like he'd swallowed something unpleasant. How unexpected. Draco caught Harry's eye, and they both had to look away quickly to avoid laughing. Baiting Lucius Malfoy was surprisingly entertaining. After lunch, Harry suggested showing Draco the grounds. As they wandered through the immaculate gardens, Draco finally relaxed enough to ask the question that had been burning in his mind. Did they talk about my parents? I mean, the Potters? Harry nodded. Sometimes. Usually Narcissa, not Lucius. She'd tell me stories about Lily from when they were at Hogwarts together. They knew each other. Not well. Different houses, different circles. But Narcissa admired her magical talent. Said she was brilliant at charms and potions. That matches what Sirius told me, Draco said thoughtfully. She kept newspaper clippings about them, Harry added. Hidden in her private sitting room. I found them once when I was 9. Articles about their wedding, their work against Voldemort, their deaths. I think she felt guilty. As she should, Draco said, a flash of anger breaking through. Her actions got them killed. Harry stopped walking. That's not entirely fair. She couldn't have known Pettigrew would betray them to Voldemort. She thought they'd be safer under the Fidelius charm than her own son would be. Still. She stole you from them. Stole me from them. And then they died thinking I was their son. I know, Harry said quietly. Trust me, I've had the same thoughts. But hating Narcissa doesn't change anything. And she genuinely loves both of us, in her way. Draco sighed, anger deflating. This would be easier if they were all monsters. If I could just hate the Malfoys and love the memory of the Potters. Nothing about this is easy, Harry agreed. But for what it's worth, I think Lily and James Potter would be proud of who you've become. Sirius did right by you. Something in Draco's chest loosened at those words. Thanks. And I think Narcissa did the best she could with you, given the circumstances. They continued walking in companionable silence until they reached a secluded corner of the grounds where a small, elegant memorial stood beneath a willow tree. Draco approached cautiously, reading the inscription, Lily Evans Potter and James Fleamont Potter brave in life, selfless in sacrifice their protection endures. Narcissa had it installed after the chamber incident, Harry explained. When we both nearly died and their protection saved us again. Lucius doesn't know it's here. Draco stared at the memorial, emotions churning. She acknowledges them as my parents. As our protectors, Harry corrected. She still considers herself your mother. But she recognizes what they did for both of us. Draco knelt, touching the cool marble. I don't remember them at all. Isn't that strange? They died when I was 15 months old. Shouldn't I have some memory, some impression? Trauma affects memory, Harry said. And you were very young. I have flashes sometimes, Draco admitted. Red hair. A laugh. Someone singing. But I don't know if they're real memories or just things I've invented from Sirius's stories. They're real, Harry said with surprising certainty. I have the same flashes. Dreams about a woman with red hair singing. It has to be Lily. Somehow, we both carry pieces of that night, of those memories. They stood in silence before the memorial, two boys honoring parents who had died protecting the wrong child, and in doing so, had somehow protected them both. The rest of the summer passed in a blur of visits back and forth. Harry spent time with Sirius, learning about James and the Marauders, about Lily's kindness and fierce intelligence. Draco visited Malfoy Manor, gradually growing more comfortable with Narcissa while maintaining a wary distance from Lucius. By the time September 1st arrived, both boys had reached a fragile peace with their complicated heritage. They weren't ready to change their living arrangements, but they had begun to embrace the duality of their identities. On the Hogwarts Express, they sat with Ron and Hermione, who had adjusted remarkably well to the truth about their friends. I still can't believe you're actually a Malfoy, Ron said to Draco through a mouthful of chocolate frog. You're nothing like them. Thanks. I think. Draco replied. It's the nurture versus nature debate in action, Hermione said enthusiastically. You both exhibit traits from your biological families and your adoptive ones. It's fascinating from a magical development perspective. Harry rolled his eyes. Glad our identity crisis is academically stimulating for you, Hermione. She flushed. Sorry. That came out wrong. It's fine, Draco laughed. Better than treating us like we're fragile or weird. The compartment door slid open, revealing Neville Longbottom looking distressed. Have you seen today's prophet? He asked without preamble. No, why? Ron asked. Neville thrust the newspaper at them. It's about Bellatrix Lestrange. She's escaped from Azkaban. Harry and Draco exchanged alarmed glances as Hermione grabbed the paper, reading aloud, in an unprecedented security breach, notorious Death Eater Bellatrix Lestrange has escaped from Azkaban prison. Ministry officials are baffled as to how she overcame the Dementor guards. Lestrange, cousin to Sirius Black and sister-in-law to Lucius Malfoy, was serving multiple life sentences for torture, murder, and her role as you-know-who's most devoted follower. The public is warned that she is extremely dangerous and deranged. Of particular concern is the possibility that she may target Harry Potter, as Lestrange was vocal about her desire to avenge her master's downfall. Well, that's just great, Draco muttered. My psychotic aunt is on the loose. Your aunt? Neville asked, his face draining of color. Draco winced, realizing his slip. Technically, yes. Bellatrix is Narcissa Malfoy's sister, and, well, it's complicated. Neville looked between Harry and Draco with confusion. What's going on? The four friends exchanged glances, silently debating how much to reveal. Finally, Harry sighed. Neville, what we're about to tell you needs to stay absolutely secret, okay? After Neville's solemn promise, they explained the truth about the baby swap. To his credit, Neville absorbed the shocking revelation with remarkable calm, though his hands shook slightly. So you're actually, and he's actually. He pointed between them, struggling to process. Yeah, Draco confirmed. Weird, right? But that means... Neville turned to Draco, his expression suddenly stricken. Bellatrix is after you, not Harry. You're the one she'll want to kill to avenge you-know-who. Except no one knows about the swap except us, Dumbledore, my parents, and Sirius, Harry pointed out. As far as Bellatrix knows, Draco Potter is the boy who lived. Which means both of us need to be careful, Draco said. She might come after Harry thinking he's a Malfoy, or after me thinking I'm Harry Potter. Or after both of you if she somehow learns the truth, Hermione added grimly. This is serious. Bellatrix Lestrange is supposed to be even more fanatical than you-know-who himself. Neville had gone very quiet. When he spoke again, his voice was barely audible. She tortured my parents. Used the Cruciatus curse until they lost their minds. They're still in St. Mungo's. They don't even recognize me. The compartment fell silent. Draco reached out hesitantly, placing a hand on Neville's shoulder. I'm sorry, Neville. I didn't know. Gran doesn't like talking about it, Neville said. But everyone knows anyway. Pitying looks, whispers. The boy with the insane parents. We'll get her, Harry said with sudden fierce conviction. She'll be caught and sent back to Azkaban where she belongs. Neville nodded, though he didn't look convinced. I should go. I left Trevor with Dean and Seamus. He paused at the door. Thanks for trusting me with your secret. I won't tell anyone. After he left, the four friends sat in somber silence, the news about Bellatrix casting a shadow over the start of term. The timing's suspicious, Hermione finally said. Bellatrix escaping right as you two are starting to explore your true identities. It feels connected somehow. How would she even know about the swap? Ron asked. It's not like Narcissa would have told her while visiting Azkaban for tea. Someone else could have figured it out and told her, Draco suggested. Snape suspects. Maybe other Death Eaters do too. Or it could be a coincidence, Harry said, though he didn't sound convinced. Either way, we need to be extra careful this year. Bellatrix is dangerous, and she has personal connections to both of us. Especially you, Draco said to Harry. You're living with her sister. Harry grimaced. Yeah, that occurred to me. Narcissa sent me 3 letters yesterday about additional security measures at the manor. And Lucius has been in and out of the ministry all week. Doing what? Ron asked suspiciously. Demanding Dementors be stationed around Hogwarts, Harry said. To protect the students. Or to protect his biological son, Hermione observed shrewdly. Probably both, Harry admitted. Lucius always has multiple motives. The train began to slow as they approached Hogsmeade Station. As they changed into their school robes, Harry and Draco each grappled silently with the implications of Bellatrix's escape. She represented a direct link to Voldemort, to the night that had defined both their lives, to the truth about their identities. Her presence in the world made everything more dangerous, and more urgent. The first 2 months of term passed in a tense but uneventful haze. Security at Hogwarts had indeed been increased, with Dementors patrolling the boundaries and Aurors occasionally visible in Hogsmeade Village during student weekends. Professor Lupin had taken to giving Harry and Draco private lessons in the Patronus charm after both had strong negative reactions to Dementors during their first encounter. Focus on your happiest memory, Lupin instructed as they practiced in an empty classroom one evening. The most powerful, joyful moment you can recall. Harry closed his eyes, thinking of flying, his first time on a broom, the freedom of soaring through the air. Expecto Patronum. A faint silver mist emerged from his wand, dissipating quickly. Beside him, Draco was having similar results. His face screwed up in concentration as he shouted, Expecto Patronum. The silver mist he produced was slightly more substantial but still formless. Better, Lupin encouraged. But you both need stronger memories. Something truly powerful. Harry tried again, this time thinking of the moment he'd learned about his true parents, not the shock or confusion, but the sense of connection, of finally understanding why he'd never quite fit in the Malfoy mold. Expecto Patronum. The silver mist coalesced slightly, almost forming a shape before dissolving. Draco lowered his wand, frustrated. This is impossible. How can anyone cast this with Dementors actually present if we can't even do it in a classroom? It's advanced magic, Lupin reminded him. Well beyond OWL level. The fact that you're both producing any mist at all is remarkable for third years. We need to master it, Harry insisted. If Bellatrix finds us. You won't face her alone, Lupin assured him. The staff is well aware of the potential threat she poses to both of you. Because of who everyone thinks we are, or because of who we actually are? Draco asked pointedly. Lupin hesitated. Both. Professor Dumbledore has informed key staff members about your unique situation. Who exactly knows? Harry asked sharply. Myself, Professor McGonagall, Professor Snape, and Madame Pomfrey, Lupin listed. Only those who needed to know for your protection and well-being. Snape, Draco muttered. Great. He already hated me when he thought I was just James Potter's son. How much worse will he be knowing I'm actually Lucius Malfoy's? Professor Snape's personal feelings are irrelevant to your safety, Lupin said firmly. He's taken an oath to protect all Hogwarts students, regardless of their parentage. Harry wasn't entirely convinced, but he returned to practicing. This time, he focused on a different memory, sitting with Draco in Sirius's garden, looking through photo albums of their parents, feeling for the first time that he had a brother in this strange journey. Expecto Patronum. A burst of silver light erupted from his wand, forming briefly into a four-legged shape before fading. Excellent, Harry! Lupin exclaimed. That was nearly corporeal. Draco looked impressed. What memory did you use? Harry hesitated. Just, something about family, he said vaguely. Your turn. Draco closed his eyes, his expression softening. Expecto Patronum. Silver light flowed from his wand, stronger than before, almost forming a distinct shape before dissolving. Very close, Lupin praised. Both of you are making remarkable progress. As they packed up to leave, Lupin held Harry back for a moment. Your father, James, mastered the Patronus charm in his 5th year. His was a stag. I wonder what form yours will take. Did my mother have one too? Harry asked eagerly. Lily's was a doe, Lupin smiled. Complementary to James's stag. It caused quite a stir when they discovered that, seemed like further proof they were meant to be together. Harry absorbed this information hungrily. Every detail about his biological parents felt like a precious gift, a puzzle piece slotting into his fragmented identity. What about the Malfoys? He asked. Do you know if they can cast patron uses? Lupin's expression grew guarded. I couldn't say. The Patronus charm requires a certain outlook that many aligned with darker philosophies struggle to achieve. You mean Death Eaters can't cast them, Harry translated bluntly. Not necessarily, Lupin said carefully. But those who have committed certain acts, who have embraced certain ideologies, they often find the spell challenging. It requires more than just a happy memory. It requires a fundamentally hopeful soul. Harry nodded thoughtfully. Thanks, Professor. For everything. As he left to catch up with Draco, Harry wondered what it meant that both of them could produce even partial patron uses. Were they, despite their complicated heritage, fundamentally hopeful? And what would their Patronus forms reveal about their true natures? The first Hogsmeade weekend arrived with excitement and trepidation. With Bellatrix Lestrange still at large, security in the village had been increased, but students were still permitted to visit, albeit with strict curfews and a buddy system enforced. Stay with us the whole time, Hermione instructed as they left the castle. No wandering off alone. Yes, Mother, Draco teased, though he took the warning seriously. They visited Honeydukes first, stocking up on sweets, then spent time browsing Zonko's joke shop. As they headed toward the Three Broomsticks for lunch, Harry noticed a familiar figure ahead, Lucius Malfoy, deep in conversation with the Minister for Magic, Cornelius Fudge. "Let's go another way," Harry suggested quickly, but it was too late. Lucius had spotted them. "Ah, Harry," he called, motioning them over. "And, company." The four friends approached reluctantly. Fudge beamed at the sight of Draco, apparently oblivious to the tension. "Harry Potter. Delighted to see you, my boy. Keeping safe, I hope. With your godfather's cousin on the loose, one can't be too careful." Draco forced a smile. "Yes, Minister. We're being very cautious." Good, good," Fudge nodded. "Terrible business, this Lestrange escape. Rest assured, we're doing everything possible to recapture her." "I was just discussing additional security measures with the Minister," Lucius said smoothly. "Given the personal connection Bellatrix has to our family." Harry caught the slight emphasis on "our family," and the way Lucius's gaze flicked between him and Draco. Was he trying to hint at the truth? Or simply acknowledging that Bellatrix might target Harry as a Malfoy by adoption? "Have there been any sightings, Minister?" Hermione asked politely. "Nothing confirmed," Fudge said. "Though we've had reports from northern Scotland last week. Quite far from here, thankfully." "Unless she's coming to Hogwarts specifically," Ron muttered, earning a sharp look from Lucius. "An astute observation, Mr. Weasley," Lucius said coolly. "Which is precisely why we're increasing security around the school." "Well, we should be going," Harry said, eager to escape the uncomfortable encounter. "Good to see you, Father. Minister." As they turned to leave, Lucius called after them, "Draco, a moment, if you please." The four friends exchanged glances. After a hesitant pause, Draco nodded to the others. "I'll catch up. Save me a seat at the Three Broomsticks." Once his friends had moved a discreet distance away, Draco faced Lucius warily. "Yes, Mr. Malfoy. I received your letter regarding the Christmas holiday," Lucius said. "Your mother was pleased by your decision to spend part of the break with us." Draco had agonized over that decision, finally compromising by planning to spend Christmas Eve and morning with Sirius, then the remainder of the holiday at Malfoy Manor. "It seemed fair," he said simply. "Indeed." Lucius studied him with those cold gray eyes so similar to Draco's own. "I wonder, have you given any thought to your future inheritance?" Draco blinked, caught off guard. "My inheritance?" "The Malfoy estate," Lucius clarified. "You are, by birth, my heir. Regardless of your unusual upbringing, that fact remains." "I haven't really thought about it," Draco admitted. "It's not something that seemed relevant right now." "Perhaps not immediately," Lucius conceded. "But it would be prudent to begin considering your position and responsibilities. Particularly given certain changes that may be coming." Draco tensed. "What changes?" Lucius's expression revealed nothing. "Let us simply say that the wizarding world is in flux. Old alliances are being reconsidered. New opportunities are arising. Your birthright includes not just wealth but influence, Draco. Influence that could be valuable in the times ahead." "Is this about Voldemort?" Draco asked bluntly. Lucius flinched at the name. "This is about your future. About claiming what is rightfully yours." "And what about Harry? Where does he fit in your vision of the future?" "Harry has been raised as a Malfoy. He understands our world, our values. He will always have a place in our family, though perhaps not the one he once anticipated." Draco studied the man who had contributed half his DNA, trying to decipher his true intentions. "I should rejoin my friends." "Of course," Lucius said smoothly. "Consider what I've said. Blood will tell, Draco. Sooner or later, it always tells." The ominous words followed Draco as he hurried to the 3 broomsticks, his mind churning. Something in Lucius's tone suggested he wasn't merely talking about inheritance and family tradition. There was a warning there, or perhaps a recruitment attempt. Either way, it left Draco deeply unsettled. "He was trying to feel you out," Harry said later as they discussed the encounter in a secluded corner of the Gryffindor common room. He'd snuck in under James Potter's invisibility cloak, which Sirius had given to Draco and Draco had subsequently shared with him. "Seeing where your loyalties lie." "But why now?" Draco wondered. "What's changed?" "Maybe nothing," Hermione suggested. "Maybe he's just finally accepted that you're his biological son and is trying to build a relationship." "No," Ron shook his head. "Dad says things are weird at the ministry lately. Lots of old Death Eaters suddenly getting involved in policy committees, making donations. Something's brewing. Bellatrix's escape could be part of it," Harry said. "What if she didn't break out alone? What if someone helped her? Like Lucius?" Draco asked skeptically. "I don't think so. He seemed genuinely concerned about security." "Maybe not him specifically," Harry conceded. "But someone. Another Death Eater. For what purpose, though?" Hermione pressed. "You know who is gone." The 4 friends exchanged uneasy glances, none of them quite believing that. After the diary incident, after seeing what remained of Voldemort possessing Quirrell, they all suspected he would return eventually. The question was when, and how. "Whatever's happening," Draco said firmly, "I'm not joining Team Death Eater just because Lucius Malfoy contributed to my genetic code. That's not who I am." "We know that," Harry assured him. "But Lucius might not. He might think that, blood will tell, that you'll eventually embrace the Malfoy legacy just because it's in your DNA." "Well, he's wrong," Draco said. "I'm more than my blood." "We all are," Harry agreed, thinking of his own struggle to define himself beyond both the Potter and Malfoy legacies. Their conversation was interrupted when Neville burst into the common room, his round face flushed with excitement. "There you are," he exclaimed. "McGonagall's looking for both of you. Says it's urgent." Harry and Draco exchanged alarmed glances. "Did she say what it's about?" Harry asked. Neville shook his head. "Just that you need to go to Dumbledore's office immediately. The password is, Fizzing Whizbee." Harry quickly donned the invisibility cloak again, and the 2 boys hurried through the castle to the stone gargoyle guarding the headmaster's office. After giving the password, they rode the moving spiral staircase up, bracing themselves for bad news. They found not only Dumbledore waiting, but also Professor McGonagall, Snape, Lupin, and most surprisingly, Narcissa Malfoy. Her normally composed face was drawn with worry. "Mother?" Harry said in surprise. "What's going on?" "There's been an incident at the manor," she said, her voice steady despite her evident distress. "Bellatrix, she came to the house last night." "What?" Draco gasped. "Was anyone hurt?" "Lucius is in St. Mungo's," Narcissa replied. "He'll recover, but he's suffered severe curse damage." "Bellatrix attacked her own brother-in-law?" Harry asked, confused. "Why?" Narcissa and Dumbledore exchanged glances. It was the headmaster who answered, his voice grave. "It appears that Bellatrix somehow learned of the baby swap. She came to the manor demanding to know if it was true that her nephew, you, Draco, was actually the boy who lived, and that Harry here is the true Potter heir." A cold weight settled in Harry's stomach. How could she have found out? "We don't know," Narcissa admitted. "Very few people were aware. But Bellatrix has always had resources. The more pressing concern," Snape interjected silkily, "is what she plans to do with this information." "She made her intentions quite clear," Narcissa said, her composure slipping slightly. "She intends to capture both of you. She believes that by offering the true Potter and the boy who defeated the Dark Lord to her master, she will be rewarded beyond measure." But Voldemort's gone, Draco said, ignoring the flinches his use of the name caused. I fear not entirely, Dumbledore said. As you both witnessed last year with the diary, and the year before with Professor Quirrell, Lord Voldemort exists in a weakened state, but exists nonetheless. Bellatrix may believe she can help restore him to power. Using us, Harry concluded grimly. But how? That remains unclear, Dumbledore admitted. But given the lengths to which she's already gone, we must assume her plan is both serious and imminent. Which is why, McGonagall said briskly, we're implementing additional security measures for both of you. No more Hogsmeade visits. No wandering the grounds alone. You'll be escorted between classes by a teacher or prefect. What about Quidditch? Draco asked immediately. Both he and Harry were seekers for their house teams. Practices and matches will continue but under supervision, McGonagall assured him. Madam Hooch will be present at all times, along with at least one other staff member. And during the holidays? Harry asked, looking at Narcissa. Is the manor safe? We've strengthened the wards, she replied. But given the circumstances, we think it best if both of you remain at Hogwarts for Christmas. Both of us? Draco frowned. Sirius will never agree to that. He'll want me home. Mr. Black has already been consulted, Lupin said gently. He agrees that Hogwarts offers better protection currently. He suggested that he could come stay in Hogsmeade over the holiday to be near you. Draco nodded, relieved. That would be good. There's one more thing, Dumbledore said, his blue eyes serious. Given that your true identities are now known to Bellatrix, and likely soon to others within Voldemort's former circle, we must consider whether to make this information public. Public? Harry repeated, alarmed. You mean tell everyone? It may be safer, Dumbledore explained. Secrets provide leverage. If the truth is widely known, it removes a weapon from Bellatrix's arsenal. But it would also create chaos, Snape pointed out. The wizarding world has built a narrative around Potter as the boy who lived. To suddenly reveal that it's actually a Malfoy by birth who defeated the Dark Lord. The political implications alone would be seismic, McGonagall agreed. Not to mention what it would mean for us, Draco added. We'd be hounded constantly. Everyone would have opinions about where we should live, who we should be. The decision must ultimately be yours, Dumbledore said. You've carried this burden long enough to have a say in how we proceed. Harry and Draco looked at each other, years of unspoken understanding passing between them. We need time to think about it, Harry finally said. Can we have until tomorrow to decide? Of course, Dumbledore nodded. But please don't delay too long. Bellatrix's knowledge makes this urgent. As they left the headmaster's office, Narcissa pulled both boys into a quick, fierce hug, something she rarely did in public. Be careful, she whispered. Both of you. You're both my sons now, in different ways. Walking back toward Gryffindor Tower under the invisibility cloak, they remained silent until reaching a secluded corridor. What do we do? Draco finally asked. Go public or keep it secret? I don't know, Harry admitted. Either way feels like losing control of our own story. It's not just about us anymore, though, Draco said. Other people are getting hurt. Lucius. Yeah, Harry nodded. If Bellatrix is willing to attack her own family to get to us. No one would be safe, Draco concluded. Sirius, Narcissa, Ron, Hermione. Anyone close to us becomes a target for information or leverage. They reached the portrait of the fat lady, but instead of giving the password, they stood outside, still hidden under the cloak. Maybe there's a third option, Harry said slowly. What if, instead of hiding or announcing the truth, we use it as bait? Bait? Draco repeated. For Bellatrix? Exactly. We could set a trap. Make her think she has a chance to capture us, but really lead her into an ambush of Aurors and teachers. Draco considered this. It's risky. If anything went wrong. It'll be dangerous no matter what we do, Harry pointed out. At least this way, we're taking action instead of just waiting for her to come after us. We'll need help, Draco said, warming to the idea. Dumbledore, Lupin, Sirius. Snape too, probably, Harry added reluctantly. He knows how Death Eaters think. And Narcissa, Draco said. She knows her sister better than anyone. They nodded in agreement, a plan already forming between them. This was their story, their identity, their legacy to reclaim. They would face Bellatrix not as victims of circumstance but as architects of their own destinies. Convincing the adults to accept their plan proved challenging but not impossible. With modifications for safety and redundant backup measures, Dumbledore ultimately agreed that a controlled confrontation might be preferable to the constant threat of Bellatrix's unpredictable attacks. The trap was set for the last Hogsmeade weekend before Christmas. Word was deliberately leaked through carefully chosen channels that both Harry and Draco would be visiting the village, shopping for holiday gifts. The bait was enhanced by hints that they would be seeking a private moment to discuss important family matters, at the Shrieking Shack, away from curious eyes. She'll come, Narcissa said confidently as they finalized the plans in Dumbledore's office. Bella never could resist an obvious opportunity. She prefers bold action to patient strategy. The key is ensuring she believes she's caught you unaware, Snape added. She must not suspect a trap. We'll make it convincing, Harry promised. He and Draco had been practicing their acting, their casual movements, making sure they appeared vulnerable but not suspiciously so. Remember, Lupin cautioned, at the first sign of danger, you activate your portkeys. He indicated the enchanted wristwatches they would both be wearing. No heroics. The Aurors will be positioned here, here, and here. Sirius pointed to a map of Hogsmeade, indicating positions around the Shrieking Shack. Under disillusionment charms. Dumbledore and McGonagall will be inside the shack itself, concealed. Snape, Lupin and I will be visible but distant, appearing to be supervising students generally. And I'll be at the Three Broomsticks, Narcissa said. Close enough to respond quickly, but not so close that Bella would suspect my involvement. The plan was comprehensive, with layers of protection and contingencies. Still, as the day approached, Harry found himself increasingly anxious. Not for his own safety, but for Draco's. You don't have to do this, he told his friend the night before. You could stay behind. I could go alone, make her think you're coming later. Not a chance, Draco replied firmly. We're in this together. Brothers, remember? Brothers, Harry echoed with a smile. The word felt right, regardless of their tangled bloodlines. The morning of the Hogsmeade visit dawned clear and cold. They dressed carefully, hiding their portkey watches under winter cloaks, wands accessible but not obviously gripped in anticipation. To complete the illusion of normal students on a shopping trip, they joined Ron and Hermione, who knew the plan and had reluctantly agreed to play their parts, at the gates. The first hour passed uneventfully as they visited shops, laughed a bit too loudly, and generally made themselves visible. Then, as planned, Harry checked his non-enchanted watch and said clearly, we should head to the Shrieking Shack now. Get that private talk before lunch. Right, Draco agreed. You guys don't mind, do you? He asked Ron and Hermione. Just some family stuff we need to sort out. No problem, Ron said, his casual tone only slightly forced. We'll meet you at the Three Broomsticks in half an hour. They separated, Harry and Draco taking the path toward the supposedly haunted house on the hill. As they walked, they maintained a casual conversation about Quidditch, though both were hyper-aware of their surroundings. They reached the dilapidated building without incident. Entering through the creaking door, they made their way to the upstairs room where Dumbledore and McGonagall were already hidden. Though invisible, the headmaster had assured them he would be monitoring everything closely. Now we wait, Harry said, settling onto a dusty chair near the window. From this position, he could watch the path while appearing to be simply enjoying the view. Draco leaned against a wall, twirling his wand idly as if bored. Think she'll really come? Narcissa seems sure of it, Harry replied. And she knows her sister best. They didn't have to wait long. Less than 10 minutes later, Harry spotted a hooded figure moving rapidly toward the shack, no longer bothering with stealth. I think that's her, he murmured. Draco tensed, gripping his wand more purposefully now. Ready? Born ready, Harry replied with a confidence he didn't entirely feel. The front door crashed open below them. Rather than footsteps on the stairs, there was a sound like rushing wind, and suddenly the door to their room blasted apart. Through the shower of splinters, a wild-haired woman stepped forward, her heavily lidded eyes gleaming with manic triumph. Well, Bellatrix Lestrange crooned. The boys with the switched identities. How convenient to find you both together. They stood, wands raised, exactly as they'd rehearsed. The plan was to keep her talking, to stall until the signal came that the Aurors were in position. Aunt Bellatrix, Draco said coolly. Heard you were looking for us. Her gaze fixed on him, a disturbing mixture of hatred and fascination. The Malfoy heir raised as a Potter. The boy everyone thinks defeated my master. Such a delicious irony. Why are you here? Harry demanded. What do you want with us? Bellatrix's attention shifted to him, her mad smile widening. The Potter spawn raised as a Malfoy. What would my dear sister say if she knew I was going to kill her precious adopted son? Narcissa would hunt you down and make you regret it, Harry replied truthfully. Bellatrix cackled. Perhaps. She always was oddly protective of you, even knowing you weren't truly hers. But it won't matter soon. Neither of you will be around to worry about. If you're planning to kill us, Draco said, why not just do it? Why the dramatic entrance? Why tell Lucius about the swap first? Kill you? Bellatrix looked offended. Waste such valuable resources? No. The Dark Lord has much better plans for both of you. Harry felt a chill. Voldemort's gone. Not gone, Bellatrix hissed. Never gone. Weakened, yes. Waiting, yes. But soon to return, more powerful than ever. And you two will help make it happen. We would never help Voldemort, Draco declared. Willingly? Of course not, she giggled. But your blood, your blood will be most useful. The blood of the boy who lived, and the blood of the boy who should have died. The perfect symmetry for the ritual. Harry and Draco exchanged quick glances. This was new information. Voldemort needed their blood for some kind of ritual. They needed to keep her talking. What ritual? Harry asked. What are you planning? Curious little snakes, aren't you? Bellatrix taunted. But I've said enough. Time to. She stopped abruptly, her head tilting as if listening. Then her face contorted with rage. You treacherous little brats, she spat. This is a trap. Before either could respond, she slashed her wand violently. A blast of purple light shot toward them. Harry dove left, Draco right, both narrowly avoiding the curse that shattered the window behind them. Now! Harry shouted, the signal for Dumbledore and McGonagall to reveal themselves. But something was wrong. No shimmering appeared to indicate disillusioning charms being lifted. No authoritative voice commanded Bellatrix to surrender. Your backup isn't coming, Bellatrix laughed. Did you think I came alone? My friends are keeping your protectors quite busy at the moment. Horror dawned on Harry. This had been a counter-trap. Bellatrix had known and prepared accordingly. The port keys, he hissed to Draco, reaching for his watch. But Bellatrix was faster. Expulso, she shrieked, and both watches exploded on their wrists, leaving painful burns but thankfully nothing worse. Stupefy! Draco shouted, sending a red jet of light at Bellatrix, who deflected it lazily. Is that the best the famous boy who lived can do? She mocked. Pathetic. Your mother died for this. Rage surged through Draco. Don't you dare talk about my mother. Impedimenta. Again, Bellatrix deflected the spell, but this time Harry was ready with his own attack from her other side. Incarcerus. Ropes shot from his wand, briefly entangling Bellatrix before she shredded them with a slashing movement. Better, she admitted. The Malfoy training shows. But not good enough. She began advancing, forcing them to retreat until their backs hit the wall. I need you alive, she said conversationally, but not unharmed. Perhaps a little lesson in respect is in order. Crucio. The spell shot toward Draco, but Harry shoved him aside and took the hit instead. Pain beyond anything he'd ever experienced erupted through his body. Every nerve was on fire, every muscle contorting. He couldn't help the scream that tore from his throat. Harry! Draco shouted in horror. Stop it! Stop it! Through the haze of agony, Harry was vaguely aware of Draco attacking Bellatrix furiously, breaking her concentration enough that the curse lifted. He slumped to the floor, gasping. You'll pay for that, Draco was saying, his voice cold with a fury Harry had never heard before. Stupefy. Impedimenta. Petrificus totalis. The barrage of spells forced Bellatrix backward, her manic grin replaced by concentration as she defended herself. She wasn't laughing anymore. The Malfoy temper, she observed. I see it in you now, nephew. The darkness in your blood awakens. I'm nothing like you, Draco spat. Expelliarmus. Bellatrix blocked it, but the spell was powerful enough to make her step back again. Your father would be proud, she taunted. Such anger, such potential. Harry had recovered enough to stand, though shakily. He moved to Draco's side, their wands aimed at Bellatrix together. We need a plan, Harry muttered, low enough that only Draco could hear. We can't beat her alone. The window, Draco whispered back. On 3? Harry nodded imperceptibly. They'd been training together all year, developing a rhythm and understanding that transcended their complicated origins. This was no different. 1, Draco breathed. Decided to surrender? Bellatrix asked, twirling her wand. Wise choice. 2, Harry murmured. My master will be so pleased, Bellatrix continued, stepping closer. 2 for the price of 1. 3, they shouted together. Reducto. Their combined blasting curses hit the wall beside the window, blowing a massive hole through the ancient wood. Without hesitation, they dove through it, tumbling onto the sloped roof below. Bellatrix's scream of rage followed them as they scrambled down the roof, slipping on loose shingles. Where do we go? Draco gasped as they reached the edge. Down. Harry replied, pointing to a lower section they could jump to. Then the forest. They leapt to the lower roof just as a curse blasted the spot they'd vacated. Bellatrix had followed them through the hole, her wild hair whipping in the winter wind, her face contorted with fury. You can't escape me, she shrieked. Avada, Expelliarmus, came a powerful voice from below. The spell hit Bellatrix's hand with such force that her wand flew away and she staggered, nearly falling from the roof. Harry and Draco looked down to see Sirius Black, his face fierce as he aimed his wand at Bellatrix. Get down, he shouted to them. Now. They didn't need telling twice, sliding the rest of the way down the roof and dropping the short distance to the ground. Sirius pulled them behind him, keeping his wand trained on Bellatrix. Hello, cousin, he called up to her. Missing something? He nodded to her wand, which lay in the snow several yards away. Bellatrix snarled, her eyes darting between Sirius and her wand, calculating her chances. It's over, Bella, Sirius continued. Aurors are on their way. Your Death Eater friends in the village have already been captured. This isn't over, she hissed. The Dark Lord will rise again. And when he does, he'll reward me beyond measure for my loyalty. Your loyalty? Sirius scoffed. Is that what you call attacking your own sister's family? Torturing children? Family? Bellatrix laughed maniacally. Narcissa betrayed our cause the moment she swapped those babies. She denied the Dark Lord his rightful victim. And thank Merlin for that, Sirius retorted. Now surrender, Bella. There's nowhere to go. For a moment, it seemed like she might actually consider it. Then, with shocking swiftness, she launched herself from the roof, not toward her wand, but toward the forest behind the shack. Before Sirius could stun her, she had disappeared among the trees. Damn it! Sirius growled. Are you two all right? He turned to the boys, checking them for injuries. I'm fine, Draco assured him. Harry took a cruciatus, Draco added worriedly. He needs Madame Pomfrey. I'm okay, Harry insisted, though he was still trembling slightly from the after effects. What happened to Dumbledore and McGonagall? They were supposed to be in the room with us. Diversionary attack in the village, Sirius explained grimly. Death Eaters set fire to Zonkos and Dervish and Banjas simultaneously. Everyone rushed to help evacuate the buildings. By the time we realized it was a distraction, Bellatrix had already reached the shack. She knew it was a trap, Draco said. She was ready for it. Someone leaked the plan, Sirius agreed, his expression hardening. We'll figure out who later. For now, let's get you both back to the castle. As they trudged through the snow toward Hogwarts, Harry found himself replaying Bellatrix's words. She said something about a ritual, he told Sirius. That Voldemort needed our blood for some kind of ritual to return. Sirius's face paled. That's not good. We need to tell Dumbledore immediately. She said something else too, Draco added. About the blood of the boy who lived and the blood of the boy who should have died. Like we're two halves of some magical equation. The prophecy, Harry realized suddenly. What if it really did refer to both of us somehow? What if we're both needed to fulfill it? Let's not get ahead of ourselves, Sirius cautioned, though he looked troubled. First priority is getting you both safe behind Hogwarts wards. Then we'll figure out what Bellatrix and her master are planning. As they passed through the Hogwarts gates, Harry caught Draco's eye. An unspoken understanding passed between them. Whatever Voldemort was planning, whatever role they were meant to play in his return, they would face it together, not as Harry Potter and Draco Malfoy, not as the boy who lived and the Malfoy heir, but as themselves. Two boys who had defied destiny once by being swapped at birth, and who would defy it again by making their own choices. The fallout from the Hogsmeade incident was immediate and far-reaching. With multiple witnesses to the Death Eater attack on the village, it was impossible to keep Bellatrix's reappearance secret. The Daily Prophet ran sensationalized accounts of the Battle of Hogsmeade, though thankfully the trap for Bellatrix and the boys' involvement remained confidential. Less easy to contain were the rumors about why Bellatrix had targeted Harry and Draco specifically. Speculation ran rampant, from suggestions that Draco was being hunted for his connection to Harry, to theories that the Malfoys had secretly harbored anti-Death Eater sentiments all along. We need to control the narrative, Narcissa insisted during an emergency meeting in Dumbledore's office the day after the attack. Before someone else does it for us. I agree, Lucius said, having checked himself out of St. Mungo's against healer advice. He looked pale and moved stiffly, but his determination was undiminished. The situation has become untenable. The truth will emerge eventually. Better it comes from us, on our terms. And what terms would those be, Lucius? Sirius asked suspiciously. How exactly do you propose to spin the fact that you and your wife stole my godson and raised him as your own? That's not what happened, Narcissa said sharply. I was protecting my child from a prophecy that marked him for death. By condemning James and Lily's son to grow up as a Malfoy, Sirius shot back. With all your pureblood supremacist nonsense. Enough, Dumbledore intervened calmly. Recriminations serve no purpose now. We must focus on the present threat. Bellatrix remains at large, and according to Harry and Draco's account, she intends to use them both in a ritual to restore Voldemort to power. What kind of ritual requires the blood of both boys? Lupin wondered aloud. Something symbolic, most likely, Snape answered. The Dark Lord has always had a flair for dramatic magical symmetry. The boy who defeated him and the boy who, in another reality, would have been killed that night. A powerful combination. We need to make the truth public, Harry said suddenly. Everyone turned to look at him. Not just to control the narrative, but to protect everyone. Right now, Bellatrix is the only Death Eater who knows for certain that Draco and I were swapped. But she'll tell others. They'll start targeting anyone connected to us for information or leverage. Harry's right, Draco agreed. We need to remove the advantage of secrecy. If everyone knows the truth, Bellatrix can't use it as a weapon. The backlash will be severe, McGonagall warned. The public has built Draco Potter into a symbol, a hero. Learning he's actually a Malfoy by birth. I'm still the same person, Draco said firmly. My blood doesn't define me. My choices do. And I'm still me, Harry added. Being a Potter by blood doesn't erase the last 13 years as a Malfoy. The adults exchanged glances, silently acknowledging the maturity the boys were showing. Finally, Dumbledore spoke. If you are both certain this is what you want, we will support your decision. But the announcement must be carefully managed. We'll prepare a statement for the Prophet, perhaps arrange an exclusive interview with a reliable journalist. Not Rita Skeeter, Lupin said firmly, earning nods of agreement from everyone. What about Xenophilius Lovegood? Draco suggested. Luna's father. He publishes the Quibbler. It's a bit unusual, but he's honest and fair. An interesting suggestion, Dumbledore mused. Unorthodox, but perhaps that's appropriate for such an unorthodox situation. They spent the next hour drafting a statement that outlined the basic facts while emphasizing the protective instincts that had motivated Narcissa's actions. It acknowledged the extraordinary circumstances that had led to both boys surviving Voldemort's attack, thanks to Lily Potter's sacrifice creating a dual protection, one through blood, one through intention. The statement would be published in both the Daily Prophet and the Quibbler simultaneously, with a longer, more personal interview to follow in the Quibbler exclusively. In this way, they hoped to maintain some control over how the story was received. There's one more thing to consider, Narcissa said as they finalized the plan. Your names and legal identities. Will you continue as you have been, or? The question hung in the air. Harry and Draco looked at each other, having discussed this privately already. I'll remain Draco, Draco said. It's who I've always been. But I'd like to acknowledge both families. Officially, Draco Potter Malfoy. And I'll remain Harry, Harry added. Harry Potter Malfoy. A hyphen? Lucius raised an eyebrow, clearly finding the idea distasteful. It's who we are, Harry said simply. Products of both families, both legacies. We can't erase either part of ourselves, and we don't want to. I think it's a fine solution, Sirius said, surprising everyone with his support. Unusual, but so is this entire situation. Very well, Dumbledore nodded. I'll have the necessary paperwork prepared to make the name changes official, if that meets with everyone's approval. Narcissa's eyes glistened with unshed tears as she nodded. Lucius's face remained impassive, but he inclined his head in acceptance. Sirius gave a more enthusiastic thumbs up. Then it's settled, Dumbledore concluded. Tomorrow, the wizarding world learns the truth about Harry Potter Malfoy and Draco Potter Malfoy. I suggest you both prepare yourselves for quite a bit of attention. The revelation, when it came, created precisely the uproar they'd anticipated. Howlers arrived by the dozen, most addressed to the Malfoys, some to Dumbledore for concealing the truth, and a disturbing number to the boys themselves. These last were intercepted and destroyed before delivery, though the boys insisted on knowing the general content of the messages. About what you'd expect, Sirius told them grimly. Some expressing sympathy, others outrage. A few threats, which the Aurors are investigating. The student body's reaction was a microcosm of the wider wizarding worlds. Some were fascinated, others horrified. The Slytherin seemed torn between pride that, one of their own, had actually defeated the Dark Lord and disgust that a Malfoy had been raised by Sirius Black as a blood traitor. The Gryffindors were equally conflicted about discovering their golden boy was actually a Malfoy by blood. Through it all, Harry and Draco maintained a united front, supported steadfastly by Ron, Hermione, and a growing circle of loyal friends who cared more about who they were than whose blood ran in their veins. People will adjust, Hermione assured them as they ate breakfast in the Great Hall, steadfastly ignoring the whispers and stares. Remember how obsessed everyone was when they first learned you were the boy who lived, she asked Draco. And now it's just part of who you are. This will be the same eventually. Maybe, Draco said, though he sounded unconvinced. But being the boy who lived who is actually a Malfoy is a bit more complicated. At least the truth is out there, Harry pointed out. No more secrets, no more looking over our shoulders wondering who knows what. Except for Bellatrix, Ron reminded them. She's still out there somewhere. And so is Voldemort, in whatever form he currently exists, Draco added somberly. That reality had been reinforced by Dumbledore, who had shared his theories about Voldemort's plans based on what Bellatrix had revealed. The ritual she'd mentioned likely involved using their blood, the blood of the boy marked by prophecy and the boy who should have been in his place, to create a new body for Voldemort's disembodied spirit. But he needs us alive and in his possession for that to work, Harry said. And now that everyone knows what he's planning, it'll be that much harder for him to get to us. Unless he finds another way, Hermione said worriedly. Dark rituals often have substitutions or alternatives. Always the ray of sunshine, aren't you, Hermione? Ron teased, though he looked concerned too. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of the morning mail. An elegant screech owl landed before Harry and Draco, bearing a letter addressed to both of them in Narcissa's distinctive handwriting. They opened it together, reading silently, "My dear boys, I hope this finds you well despite the tumult of recent days. The response to our announcement has been as expected, loud, divided, and largely uninformed. Pay it no mind. What matters is that you are both safe and finally free to be your authentic selves, whatever form that takes. Lucius is recovering well and sends his regards. He has been surprisingly adaptable to our new public reality, though I suspect that has more to do with calculating political advantage than genuine acceptance. Still, it's progress of a sort. Sirius visited yesterday to discuss summer arrangements. We've agreed that the most sensible solution is for both of you to split your time between our homes. 2 weeks at the manor, 2 weeks at Sirius's cottage, alternating throughout the holiday. This assumes, of course, that Bellatrix has been apprehended by then. If not, alternative security arrangements will be necessary. Most importantly, I want you both to know how proud I am of the young men you've become. Harry, you have shown remarkable grace and forgiveness toward a woman who altered the course of your life without your consent. And Draco, you have demonstrated incredible strength in facing a heritage you never knew was yours. You are both my sons now, one by blood, one by choice and years of love. Whatever challenges lie ahead, know that you face them with the full support of both your families, complicated and imperfect though we may be. With love, Narcissa. P.S. Lucius has agreed to donate a significant sum to St. Mungo's new research department focusing on magical orphans and child welfare. He claims it's merely good public relations, but I suspect your influence, Harry. Well done. They finished reading and looked at each other, small smiles forming. She's really trying, Draco said. She always has been, Harry replied. In her way. Summer at both houses, Draco mused. That'll be interesting. Terrifying, you mean, Harry corrected with a laugh. Can you imagine Sirius and Lucius attempting polite conversation during drop-offs and pickups? They both chuckled at the mental image, the tension of recent days easing slightly. Despite everything, the public revelation, Bellatrix's escape, the looming threat of Voldemort's return, they had each other, and they had families who, however flawed, were trying their best to support them. "Whatever happens next," Draco said, "we face it together, right? Potter Malfoys stick together." "Always," Harry agreed, extending his hand. As they shook on it, sealing their pact, something shifted and settled between them, a sense of rightness, of belonging, that transcended blood and names and prophecies. They were Harry and Draco, neither fully Potter nor fully Malfoy, but something new altogether. Something chosen rather than inherited. And in that choice lay their true power, the power to define themselves beyond the circumstances of their birth or the expectations of others. The power to write their own story, together. The end. Thank you for watching this video. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video.